Chapter 738. Who said that the Haochi alliance has no one? Who said that Qin Hao's brothers are all trash? Let's see who's the real trash now. Tian Boguang, do you dare to fight with me? Yi Shuihan? Yi Shuihan spoke arrogantly and domineeringly. His roar was like a thunderclap that was filled with dignity. In his opinion, he was undoubtedly the strongest person in Qiyang. He should take on the responsibility of fighting Tian Boguang alone and protect Qin Hao's safety. These words caused the expressions of Yi Shuifeng and the others to change abruptly, and at the same time, they were extremely shocked. Today, two explosive pieces of news were announced to the public. One was the chief disciple of the Mad Dragon Academy. He was the son of the Mad Dragon Academy's president and vice president's concubine. The other news was even more unacceptable. Yi Shuihan was the son of the Dragon Abyss Emperor, the prince of the Yi royal family, and the future emperor of the Luo Shui Empire. It had to be said that Yi Shuihan's unexpected appearance had completely disrupted the formation of both sides. Tian Boguang's side's advantage instantly took a turn for the worse. Not only did they lose their battle strength, but they also made the Huang brothers and Yi Shuifeng retreat in fear. On the other hand, Qin Hao's side was filled with confidence. Big brother, what should we do? That guy is a prince, the son of the Dragon Abyss Emperor. We can't go against the royal family, even if we have 10,000 lives. Huang Tianba said fearfully. Huang Tianba slapped him in the face and roared, "How would I know what to do?" Huang Tianba really didn't know what to do. "I don't believe it. You said that you're the Yi royal family's prince. Who can prove your identity?" "I don't believe it." As a genius of the royal family's branch, Yi Shuifeng couldn't accept the truth in front of him. In fact, it was because Yi Longyuan didn't have a son that the collateral disciples worked so hard to show off. They dreamed that they could be favored by Yi Longyuan and be adopted by the emperor one day. This was the dream of all the collateral disciples. Yi Shuifeng's performance was even more outstanding. Who knew that Yi Longyuan had an illegitimate son? That's right. I suspect that this person is impersonating a prince and has committed heinous crimes. Brother Shuifeng, don't believe him. What you should do is to kill this person and execute this audacious bastard on behalf of the imperial family. Killing him will prove your excellence, Yi Shuifeng. Tian Boguang bewitched Yi Shuifeng with a gloomy face. At this critical juncture, he absolutely could not allow Yi Shuifeng to leave his pirate ship. Besides, even if he is the real prince, so what? Other than Yi Longyuan, who else knew that he had been to the Medicine Valley? Who had seen him and could prove his identity? Let's say that he unfortunately died in the hands of a magical beast from the Medicine Valley, and you coincidentally killed the magical beast to avenge the prince. In this way, everything will go smoothly. Brother Shuifeng, don't miss this rare opportunity. If you miss it, all your previous efforts will go to waste, and you will lose an empire. Are you willing to accept that? Tian Boguang said again. His schemes were extremely vicious. In other words, even if Yi Shuihan was the real prince, he should be killed and must be killed. That's right. I joined the army at the age of 13 and experienced life and death in the army. I suffered a lot for the Yi family. How can I give up just like that? Especially you, a guy who came out of nowhere, claiming to be a prince. But what have you done for the Yi family? Only if you die, I can become the emperor. As long as Qin Hao and the others are all dead, the secret that I killed Yi Shuihan will be buried in the Medicine Valley forever. By then, Yi Longyuan will not be able to do anything to me. After all, my father is in charge of the most powerful army in Luo Shui. Ha! Yi Shuifeng laughed wildly like a madman. The cruelty in his eyes was self-evident. It was obvious that he had made up his mind to murder the prince of his family. That's great. I, Tian Boguang, congratulate you in advance, Prince Shuifeng. I hope you can ascend to the throne as soon as possible and lead the Luo Shui territory. Don't forget about me when the time comes. Tian Boguang deliberately bowed in front of Yi Shuifeng. When Yi Shuifeng heard the words, Prince Shuifeng, he felt as if his soul had flown to the Western paradise. This stimulated Yi Shuifeng's emotions even more. He felt that he had really become a prince. At this moment, he couldn't wait to kill Yi Shuaihan and replace him. A bunch of traitors. How dare you plot against this prince? How audacious. Yi Shuaihan was so angry that his teeth hurt. He had planned to show the token of his identity as a prince, but now it was no longer necessary. Because even if he showed the token and proved his identity, Yi Shuaihan would not stop his crimes. I swear, after leaving the Medicine Valley, your branch and the Whitewater Corps will pay a heavy price. Yi Shuaihan clenched his fist and swore. Unfortunately, you won't be able to leave this place alive. Die. Yi Shuaihan impatiently took action. Unsheathing the battle saber at his waist, he quickly slashed at Yi Shuaihan's head in his armor, drawing a 30-meter-long saber light that fell like a white light in the clear sky. He roared hoarsely, "Brother Boguang, quickly kill Qin Hao and then come help me." He knew that he couldn't defeat Yi Shuaihan. This was completely obvious from the way Yi Shuaihan had killed Natural Liang. After all, Natural Liang's cultivation was actually on par with Yi Shuaifan's. So what he needed to do now was to delay the other party and give Tian Boguang time to kill Qin Hao. Once Qin Hao was dead, Yi Shuaihan would also be besieged by the two of them. Qin Hao, hand over your life. For the sake of Wan Qin's happiness, you will have to stay in this forest forever. This was the result that Tian Boguang wanted. He immediately attacked Qin Hao. He flew up and punched out, sending the blazing lava flying. The lava surged towards Qin Hao. You want to compete with the fire origin spirit, right? That's exactly what I want. Break. Needless to say, Qin Hao also flew up, and his fist blasted out a red lotus flame that was as red as blood. The red lotus flame collided with Tian Boguang's flames, causing a violent explosion in the air. It seems like you have forgotten that I am Xianyuan Wuhuang. Tian Boguang, let me help you. Xianyuan Wuhuang sneered. His peak 6th level Yuan Monarch cultivation rose to its peak. Helping Yi Shuaihan in his rebellion? Just thinking about it made him feel excited. At this moment, he followed Tian Boguang and pounced towards Qin Hao. He had a feeling that Qin Hao was definitely more difficult to deal with than Yi Shuaihan. On the surface, Qin Hao is not as strong as Yi Shuaihan. Tian Boguang, let me help you too. While speaking, Yi Wuhan also made a move. He threw the sword in his arms and pulled it out of the scabbard. The appearance of Yi Wuhan's sword was quite extraordinary. There was a 7-colored light flowing on the sword. It was obviously an extremely high-grade weapon. At this moment, the 3 peak experts surrounded Qin Hao in a cold-blooded manner. However, when Yi Wuhan rushed over, the tip of his sword suddenly changed direction and unexpectedly stabbed towards Xianyuan Wuhuang's back. With a tearing sound, a piece of cloth was cut off from Xianyuan Wuhuang's body and a bloody wound appeared. Fortunately, Xianyuan Wuhuang dodged quickly. Otherwise, he would have been cut in half by Yi Wuhan. What a fast swordsmanship! This amazing scene once again stunned Xiaowa and the others. At the same time, Yi Wuhan's speed made them feel a strong sense of fear. The other party's sword was simply incomparably fast. An ordinary person would not be able to dodge it at all. Xiaowa had only seen this kind of extreme speed from Qin Hao. Xianyuan Wuhuang was enraged after being hit by this move. He made a prompt decision and immediately gave up on attacking Qin Hao. He turned around and gathered his essence before sending a fierce palm strike towards Yi Wuhan. Why are you attacking me? Because I am a disciple of Qi Yang. This sword of mine is called the Red Wind Sword. It was personally given to me by the vice president. Let me tell you a secret. Actually, I'm also a disciple of the vice president. I have always treated him like a father. Tell me, why should I attack you? Not only will I attack you, but I will also King tear you apart. Tear you into pieces. Chapter 739. As he spoke, Yi Wuhan sent out hundreds of sword chi, which flew like shuttles towards Xianyuan Wuhuang's palm. Although Xianyuan Wuhuang's palm technique was extremely fierce and had destroyed more than 90 sword chi, it eventually ran out of energy and was shattered by the last 10 sword chi. The last 10 sword chi merged together and exploded on Xianyuan Wuhuang's body with a loud bang. Ah! Xianyuan Wuhuang screamed as a deep wound appeared on his chest. His clothes were cut in half and fell off. The flesh on his wound was torn open and his body flew out involuntarily. Although his cultivation level was higher than Yi Wuhan's by a small stage, he was completely suppressed by Yi Wuhan in terms of agility and speed. It could be seen that the chief disciple of the Red Sun Inner Pavilion lived up to his name. At this moment, including Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan, a total of 6 of the most outstanding geniuses of the Western Liang territory were fighting each other, and they emanated waves of explosive sounds that caused the blood of the spectators below to boil. Han Man couldn't help but shed tears of excitement. He originally thought that he would die, but the tables had turned. The ups and downs of life were extremely exciting. He had no regrets about joining the Haoqi Alliance. The battle in the sky was extremely intense, but no one went up to interfere. Sayogwa and the others knew very well that no one was qualified to interfere in any of the 3 groups. If they didn't, not only would they not be able to help, but they would also become a burden to Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan. Big brother, what should we do? Who should we help? Huang Tianba was so anxious that he was about to cry. He didn't expect such an outcome. After Xinyuan Wuhuang betrayed Qin Hao, Tian Buguang's group had a huge advantage. However, Yi Wuhan betrayed them and returned. As a result, the numbers and strength of both sides were balanced. Qin Hao and the other 6 ruthless people were fighting. It was hard to tell who would win in a short time. Slap! Huang Tianba slapped Huang Tianba again. Don't help anyone. No matter who we help, we can't escape death. Let's go. After saying that, he grabbed his brother and tried to fly away again. He deeply understood that only by returning to the Wild Dragon Academy would they be safe. Otherwise, even if Tian Buguang and Yi Shuifeng defeated Qin Hao today, they would not let the 2 brothers go. Only the dead could keep the secret of killing the prince. But how could Sayogwa let them go? He immediately surged his vitality to block the attack and hooked his finger at Huang Tiandu. The second person of the Wild Dragon Cabinet, right? You were very arrogant just now. Sayogwa, hate people from the Wild Dragon Academy the most in my life. If you want to live, let's see if you have the ability to leave in front of me. Sayogwa used to be a disciple of Kuang Long and suffered cruel and unfair treatment. He would not let Huang Tianba and Huang Tiandu off. Earlier, Huang Tiandu had even insulted Naransu, Nalan Li, and Shang Er. Just based on this point alone, they could not let them go. Ha! You dare to stop me at the second stage of the king's stage? He really didn't know the meaning of death. Good. Before I leave, I will get rid of you, the traitor of Kuang Long, hand over your life. Huang Tiandu was enraged by Sayogwa's provocation. He raised his hand and threw Huang Tianba out. He had the cultivation of a level 4 Yuan Monarch and was not afraid of Sayogwa at all. I can only leave after I kill you. I will finish you in one move. Yellow Snake Fawn Blade. Time was of the essence. Huang Tiandu took action and used his special skill. A large amount of yellow light appeared behind him. The yellow light condensed and turned into a curved snake knife in his hand. The long snake knife was Huang Tiandu's origin soul. As he spoke, he raised the snake knife and slashed at Sayogwa's head. It seemed heavy enough to tear a mountain apart. Although I am not as perverted as Big Brother and Brother Han, you have underestimated my ability. Great strength bull, demon body. Sayogwa opened his arms. Accompanied by a vigorous bull roar, a giant bull phantom appeared behind him and entered his body in the blink of an eye. Sayogwa's body underwent a drastic change. His skin became thicker. His muscles grew rapidly. His arms were thicker than a normal person's waist. The green veins on his legs were like dragon tendons that were filled with wild power. With 2 fangs coming out of his mouth, 2 sharp horns appeared on top of Qi Xiaohua's head at the same time. At this time, Qi Xiaohua's body size had increased to more than 5 meters. Between the 2 pectorals, there was a cluster of thick black hair. He looked very wild, as tall and sturdy as a savage. Clang! At this moment, Huang Tiandu's snake knife slashed at Sayogwa's head. However, dazzling sparks exploded. This slash only cut off 2 strands of hair from Sayogwa's head. It did not cause any effective damage. How is this possible? Huang Tiandu, was extremely shocked. His cultivation base was 2 levels higher than Tsiogua's, and he had used the power of the origin spirit. This slash was enough to split an ordinary level 6 Yuan Monarch in half. However, it could not even cut through Tsiogua's skin. It could only cut off 2 strands of hair. You actually cut off 2 strands of hair. It seems like this slash of yours is not for show. It is enough for you to laugh at the world. Tsioga exhaled 2 clouds of white smoke from his huge nostrils. Then, he raised a huge fist and punched Huang Tiandu's face. This punch made Huang Tiandu's eyes slanted. He was sent flying like a cannonball. His face was deformed. Big brother. Huang Tianba was extremely shocked. His mighty big brother could not even withstand a single punch from Tsioga. Then, let's have a spar too. At that moment, a cold female voice sounded from behind. Huang Tianba turned around and saw Xing, with a frosty expression. Miss Xing, it's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. We can still be good friends. In fact, swoosh. Before Huang Tianba could finish his sentence, he saw the dog spirit rushing over from afar. It opened its mouth and swallowed his body. Then it flew into the sky and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Sigh. Xing shook her head in disappointment. Her prey had been snatched away by the dog spirit. However, killing a scumbag like Huang Tianba would only dirty her hands. As she spoke, she looked at the 3 battles. In the first battle, Qin Hao and Tian Buguang were fighting. Although both sides seemed to be fighting energetically, Xing knew that the 2 of them were merely probing attacks. They had not used their full strength. In the second battle, Yi Shuihan was simply beating Yi Shuifeng. It was a completely one-sided battle. It seemed like it would not be long before Major General Yi would be finished. Gosh, how did this happen? Senior brother Wuhan is going to lose. At that moment, Nailin suddenly let out a scream and pulled Xing's gaze back. Xing immediately looked at the third battle and found that Yi Wuhan, who had slashed Xianyuan Wuhuang twice, was in a very bad state at the moment. He was retreating step by step and was at a disadvantage. Xianyuan Wuhuang became fiercer and fiercer as he fought. His combat strength was stronger than expected. Yi Wuhan, you shouldn't have taken the initiative to provoke me. Originally, my ultimate move was left for Qin Hao to enjoy. Since you want to die for him, I'll fulfill your wish. In the past 3 years, I'm actually very jealous of your achievements in Qiyang. In fact, how can you compare to me? So, I've secretly studied you for 3 years. Your source spirit is born with extreme speed. This speed that surpasses an ordinary person by 5 times allowed you to create one legend after another in Qiyang. But today, I'll end your legend. Come and see my Xianyuan Wuhuang's true strength. Gravity source spirit, open for me. Chapter 740. There were tens of thousands of types of source spirits on the continent. They were roughly divided into beast spirits, weapon spirits, elemental source spirits, etc. But Yi Wuhan and Xianyuan Wuhuang source spirits did not belong to the 3 main categories. There were different types of source spirits. Yi Wuhan's source spirit was speed. After erupting, he would have an innate speed 5 times that of a normal person. He did not need to rely on cultivation techniques or martial arts. Xianyuan Wuhuang's source spirit was gravity. While speaking, he released his gravity source spirit. A blue ripple spread out from his body, covering a 100-meter radius. It also immediately trapped Yi Wuhan within the range of his gravity source spirit. Immediately, Yi Wuhan's swift and fierce attacks became even slower than a snail's. Moreover, every time he attacked with his sword, it seemed like he had exhausted all his strength. Taking advantage of an opening, Xianyuan Wuhuang let out a sinister sneer. He punched Yi Wuhan's left chest, causing it to cave in. Yi Wuhan could not help spitting out a mouthful of blood. Slow, too slow. You were known to be as fast as lightning. Why are you in such a pitiful state? Even a farmer is faster than you. Xianyuan Wuhuang wildly laughed and punched Yi Wuhan's right shoulder again. Gotcha! This punch dislocated Yi Wuhan's shoulder. The seven-colored sword in Yi Wuhan's hand also fell to the ground. Being trapped in the gravity source spirit, Yi Wuhan's speed was greatly restrained. You are indeed stronger than I imagined. But don't look down on me, Yi Wuhan. Lightning Dragon Drill. With a hoarse roar, Yi Wuhan used all his strength and used his trump card, his strongest move. At this moment, he forcibly dispelled the gravity shackles on his body. His entire body turned into a sword light. Lightning wreaked havoc on the sword light as it released crackling sounds. It spun and drilled towards Xianyuan Wuhuang's chest. Xianyuan Wuhuang's gravity effect could no longer suppress the sword light flying towards him. Oh, you surprised me. You actually surpassed yourself and broke through the limit of 5 times, reaching a height of 6 times. But it's a pity your overpowered 6 times speed in front of my gravity source spirit. It can't even withstand a single blow. Xianyuan Wuhuang was slightly surprised. Immediately, the yuan qi around his body rose again. The green ripples that spread out became even more intense under the infusion of yuan qi. This meant that he had strengthened his gravity. 6 times gravity, open. Xianyuan Wuhuang clasped his hands together, then abruptly parted them to the left and right. Wang. A vast and mighty force swept out from his palm and rushed towards the incoming sword light. After Yi Wuhan's incarnation of the sword light came into contact with this power, it was as if it had sunk into a quagmire. Its flying speed was immediately hindered, and it could no longer maintain it, revealing its original body within the sword light. The first punch injured you. The second punch crippled your arm. This third punch will end your life. Accept your fate, Yi Wuhan. Xianyuan Wuhuang wildly charged forward with a ferocious expression. His fist was wrapped in king-level yuan qi as it mercilessly fell towards Yi Wuhan's head. Damn, not only can your gravity source spirit weaken others, it can also increase your own strength when you're inside. Sorry, master. This disciple has done his best. Yi Wuhan was trapped in the green ripples in the air. He struggled with all his might, but he couldn't move at all. He could only watch as Xianyuan Wuhuang's fist fell down. At this moment, he closed his eyes. He had fulfilled his duty as a disciple of Scarlet Sun sect. Although he was somewhat unwilling to lose to Xianyuan Wuhuang, he had at least delayed him, giving Qin Hao and the others some time. Then the following battle would depend on Qin Hao himself. Danger! Dodge! Senior brother Wuhan. Everyone was shocked. Han Man, Nalan Li, and even Xinger anxiously flew into the air, trying to save him. But they were helpless. When they entered the range of Xianyuan Wuhuang's gravity, everyone's movements were immediately hindered, turning them into a bunch of slow snails. On the other side, after Yi Shuifeng and Yi Shuihan exchanged blows, in just 2 short moves, he had already fallen into a difficult position and was surrounded by danger. At this moment, he deeply understood that dying in the hands of Yi Shuihan was not an injustice at all. Even if Yi Shuihan, who had transformed into the Golden Robe Man, did not launch a sneak attack on Natural Liang, Natural Liang was not his opponent at all. You're actually this strong? Look at my mysterious water power. Yi Shuifeng's shiny silver armor was covered in wounds, and the blade in his hand had been broken in 2. If he did not use his source spirit, he would not be able to wait for Tian Boiguang to come to help him and would die in the hands of Yi Shuihan. While speaking, he threw away the broken blade, and his palms changed in front of his chest. With the change, one after another, a white stream of water, like a water snake, appeared and coiled around his body. Take my source spirit's power. See dragons soars to the sky. Yi Shuifeng roared and raised his palms above his head. Whoosh! A vast ocean appeared behind him, and under the rolling waves, the water snakes coiling around his body seemed to have swallowed the power of the sea and swelled into water dragons with a body length of 100 meters. One after another, the water dragons whistled toward Yi Shuihan, bringing out a brilliant water light in the air. How dare you compete with the light of the sun and the moon, showing off your water source spirit in front of this prince? You're so stupid. Yi Shuihan also laughed. He was very clear in his heart that all the people of the Yi family who had a source spirit had obtained a water source spirit, which was the unique power of the family. For example, Yilong Yuan's source spirit was an ancient primitive sea. The primitive sea was undoubtedly a giant existence standing at the peak of the water source spirit. Yi Shuihan's source spirit was of a higher grade than his father's. Water god body, open for me. Chapter 741. At this moment, it was as if all the water vapor in the entire Herb Valley forest had been mobilized. In an area of about 50 miles, dew began to fall like a drizzle. Looking down from above, one would find that the rivers and lakes in the area of 50 miles seemed to have been summoned by something. They began to surge and rise into the air. Yi Shuihan's physique was the water god's physique. His innate affinity with the water element had reached 200%. He was the nemesis of all water element spirits. He could even control the enemy's water element energy for his own use. This was incomparably terrifying. As he spoke, when the water dragons roared over, Yi Shuihan only waved his hand indifferently. Return. Roar. In the next second, the dozen water dragons that Yi Shuifeng had sent over seemed to have been given life again. They were filled with spirituality as they turned around and attacked the other side. They were also filled with joy, as if Yi Shuihan was their father. How can this be? Yi Shuifeng was stunned. His face was filled with disbelief. Ever since he was born, he had never seen anyone who could control another person's soul and attack them back. He also sensed that he had lost the ability to control the water dragons. It was as if the water dragons' wills had been tampered with. As a result, when he lost focus, there was a boom, boom, boom. There were continuous booms. The dozen water dragons that were 100 feet long all slammed into Yi Shuifeng's chest. The impact was as ferocious as an ocean, causing him to spit out mouthful after mouthful of blood. When the last water dragon finished attacking, the silver armor on Yi Shuifeng's body completely disintegrated, turning into drifting fragments. Then he fell head first, like a spring onion, his head smashed into the ground. He fell into the dirt. As a subordinate of a branch clan, you cruelly murdered the prince of your clan. Your crime is punishable by death. Disappear from me. Perhaps it was because of Qin Hao's influence. Yi Shuihan did not tolerate traitors. He held the void and condensed a mercury-like sacred water light. The water light turned into a water spear, ready to take Yi Shuifeng's life. But at this moment, Han Man and Xing Er's cries suddenly rang out from afar. Yi Shuihan turned his head and saw that Yi Wuhan, who was fighting with Xianyuan Wu Huang, was stuck in midair, unable to move. It was as if he had been imprisoned. Then, Xianyuan Wu Huang's fist, which was wrapped in dense yuan qi, pounced forward and smashed towards Yi Wuhan's head. Stop! Yi Shuihan made a prompt decision to give up the chance to kill Yi Shuifeng. However, there was one person who acted faster than him. Whoosh! An afterimage flashed in front of him like a hurricane. When the afterimage flashed by, Yi Shuihan actually couldn't resist it. His body spun 3 times on the spot, which was quite terrifying. Yi Shuihan's current cultivation base was a peak level 6 Yuan Monarch. Its boss. What power? Yi Shuihan recognized the aura of the afterimage. It was Qin Hao. Although he knew that Qin Hao had twin origin souls and his constitution was unimaginably strong, he still couldn't help but feel apprehensive. If Qin Hao had attacked Yi Shuihan just now, it would have been enough to cause him serious injuries. Boss's cultivation base has increased by another level. He's really a monster. Yi Shuifeng sighed. He had originally thought that he was awesome enough and might even surpass Qin Hao. However, after the afterimage flashed by just now, Yi Shuihan clearly understood that Qin Hao's ability wasn't inferior to his. In fact, Qin Hao might even be stronger than him. Qin Hao, who was a level 4 Yuan Monarch, was stronger than Yi Shuihan, who was a peak level 6 Yuan Monarch. Furthermore, Yi Shuihan had activated his water god physique. It was extremely terrifying to imagine. Qin Hao, how dare you divert your attention to save others while fighting with me? You're simply humiliating me. You're clearly not taking me seriously. You're courting death. Tian Boguang roared angrily and immediately chased after Luo Yunyang. His body pierced through the sky like a flying arrow and headed straight for the battle in Xinyuan Wuhuan. However, how could Yi Shuihan, who was in the middle, let him do as he wished? He couldn't help but chuckle. You want to pass by me? Leave your life first. Whoosh. After saying that, he flung his hand and threw the water spear that he had just condensed at Tian Boguang. Yi Shuihan's throw could be said to be shockingly powerful. Furthermore, the water spear was condensed from the water god physique, and its power was not to be underestimated. Given Tian Boguang's experience, he could naturally sense the power of the water spear. He had no choice but to resentfully give up on chasing after Qin Hao and change his focus to facing Yi Shuihan's attack with all his might. In Tian Boguang's two palms, two balls of raging flames gathered. The intensity of the flames burning on his body also doubled, like a small sun floating in the air. When the water spear flew over, he roared, "Break for me!" Boom! Boom! He threw the blazing flames forward with both hands, causing them to collide with the water spear. As their cultivation bases were similar, neither side gained the upper hand in this exchange. The water spear and the blazing flames disappeared at the same time. The devastating aftershock spread and sent both of them flying. "Brother Boguang, let me help you." At this moment, Yi Shuifeng, who had fallen to the ground, finally pulled his head out of the mud. Seeing that Tian Boguang and Yi Shuihan were actually exchanging blows, he was overjoyed and exclaimed that Tian Boguang was loyal enough to save his life. With a grateful heart, Yi Shuifeng flew up again and joined forces with Tian Boguang, surrounding Yi Shuihan in the middle. Dai Yi Wuhan. On the other side, Xinyuan Wuhuang's fist was only 0.01 centimeters away from Yi Wuhan's head. It looked like he was about to explode Yi Wuhan's head. Xing, and the others, who were trapped in the gravitational field, were extremely anxious. However, their movements were slower than a snail's, and they were extremely helpless. Pung! As expected, the punch landed. However, there was no scene of blood splattering. This was because this punch was blocked by a powerful palm. Qin Hao! A heavy muffled sound rang in his ears. Yi Wuhan opened his eyes and saw a figure standing in front of him. Although the figure was thin, it was incomparably imposing. "You actually want to fight with me, right? In fact, I also want to see your speed. So, don't give up on your life so easily." Qin Hao did not turn around, but these words made Yi Wuhan's eyes wet. Thank you," Yi Wuhan said in a choked voice. He thought that he would die without a doubt. Even if someone came to save him, he never thought that the first person to save him would be Qin Hao. While feeling grateful, Yi Wuhan sighed his heart. Fight with you? How can the current me be qualified to be Qin Hao's opponent? Qin Hao had charged into Xinyuan Wuhuang's 6 times gravity source spirit's area and was not affected at all. Moreover, he had blocked the other party's fist. From this point, it was clear that his cultivation was far above Yi Wuhan's. "It's you." At the same time, Xinyuan Wuhuang was also shocked. His eyes were as wide as a cow's egg. "That's right, it's me. I said that when we fight again, you will be my mortal enemy." Qin Hao kicked with his back foot. Pung! The kick landed on Yi Wuhan's body and sent him flying, leaving the gravitational field. This meant that the other side, this Xinyuan Wuhuang, would be defeated by me, Qin Hao. Ha 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 ha. I didn't look for you, but you still dare to look for me. Qin Hao, you're too confident. Look at my gravity source spirit. Gravity your sister. Chapter 742. How can this be? Xinyuan Wuhuang was shocked. Yi Wuhan was completely suppressed by 6 times the gravity, but it had no effect on Qin Hao. Judging from the strength of this punch, Qin Hao's actual combat power was far above Yi Wuhan's. I know you are very strong, but I still underestimated you. I didn't expect you to be so strong. The strength of a level 4 Yuan Monarch is twice that of a level 6 Yuan Monarch. But so what? If I can suppress Yi Wuhan, I can also suppress you, Qin Hao. 7 times the gravity. Xianyuan Wu Huang's vitality surged again as he forcefully stabilized his body. He opened his arms, and a layer of dense green ripples swept out rapidly. Buzz! The area covered by this layer of green ripples expanded by another 200 meters, reaching a range of 300 meters. The gravity within 300 meters was greatly increased again. At this moment, Xing and the others, who were trapped in the gravitational field, stopped moving completely and could no longer move. Xianyuan Wuhuang thought that Qin Hao's strength was too strong, so he was able to counteract 6 times the gravity. However, Qin Hao could never counteract 7 times the gravity. 7 times the gravity? It's useless. In response, Qin Hao laughed sarcastically. His body shot out like an arrow and appeared in front of Xianyuan Wuhuang in the blink of an eye. His fist landed on Xianyuan Wuhuang's right shoulder. Crack! Just like when Xianyuan Wuhuang had attacked Yu Wuhan, this punch dislocated his right shoulder, causing Xianyuan Wuhuang to scream in pain. He was in so much pain that he broke out in cold sweat. His face was distorted. 7 times the gravity is still unable to restrain you? Damn it! Xianyuan Wuhuang was forced to retreat again by Qin Hao. His eyes were filled with disbelief as though he thought Qin Hao was a monster. Under 7 times the gravity, an ordinary person would instantly turn into dust if they were trapped. Even Yuan kings of the same realm would immediately feel the pain of their bodies being crushed. That feeling was worse than death. However, Qin Hao was able to move freely. He was still as relaxed and confident as before. He was simply a living freak. You're the one who forced me to do this. Although using 8 times the normal gravity will cause me immeasurable damage, it's still not enough. But this time, I want you, Qin Hao, to die without a burial place. I want all the members of your Grand Aura Alliance to be annihilated. All of you disappear for me. Activate the 8x gravity. Xianyuan Wuhuang was going all out. He screamed in extreme pain. As he opened his arms again, the veins on his naked upper body bulged like black earthworms, causing his blood vessels to expand and his skin to split open. Large amounts of blood flowed out of his cracked skin and the wounds that Yu Wuhan had inflicted. In the blink of an eye, Xianyuan Wuhuang was covered in blood. However, at the same time, the range of the cyan ripples instantly expanded to cover an area of 800 meters. Within the 800 meters, the space was distorted intensely. Popping sounds could be heard from all directions as the space was shattering. If a huge rock was placed in the 8x gravity zone, it would probably turn into dust in a second. Not to mention a boulder, even if it was a mountain, it would probably be reduced to nothingness. Therefore, one could imagine how much damage Xing, and the others were suffering at this moment. In fact, both Nail and Lianhan Man were screaming in pain. Their bodies seemed to be squeezed and deformed. Blood was squeezed out of their bodies and instantly dyed their clothes red. Even Xing, who had extraordinary endurance, couldn't withstand such torture. She screamed in pain in front of Qin Hao. Ha! I want you to watch all your friends and loved ones die. Qin Hao, this is the price you have to pay for infuriating me. This is the outcome of being my enemy. But don't worry. In the next second, you will also be crushed by my 8x gravity and turn into dust in history. Xianyuan Wuhuang, who was covered in blood, had an extremely hideous expression on his face. As blood flowed down his face, he looked like a living devil. However, he wasn't in a good state either. Every time he spoke, he would vomit out a piece of broken internal organs. It was obvious that 8x gravity was his limit. He couldn't hold on for too long. Domain. Making a prompt decision, Qin Hao didn't have the leisure to play with his opponent. He immediately released the trump card he had just obtained, the king-tier divine skill of the indestructible Samsara technique. It was the power of the domain that had offset Xianyuan Wuhuang's gravity source spirit. Originally, he had planned to use the domain divine skill to deal with Tian Boguang later. However, in order to save Xing, and the others, Qin Hao couldn't care less. He had to release it completely. Buzz. In an instant, A scarlet halo flickered and spread out from Qin Hao's body. It engulfed an area of 1,000 meters and covered the green ripples in the air. In this area, crimson red and green mixed together as the two forces clashed. But soon, the green ripples were completely devoured by Qin Hao's divine rank cultivation method, and the gravitational force in this area was instantly dispelled. Swoosh! Swoosh! As the gravity shackles were removed in time, Nalan Li, Han Man, and Xing returned into 3 falling figures and fell. They seemed to have lost all strength. It was extremely dangerous just now. Fortunately, their lives weren't in danger. What? This time, Xinyuan Wuhuang was extremely shocked. He watched as Xing, and the others escaped from his control. He couldn't believe it. Chapter 743. It turned out that Qin Hao had relied on the awakened Forbidden Sky ability to resolve the 8 times gravity. Although it looked very strange, how could he compare to him in terms of Forbidden Sky ability? Qin Hao's Forbidden Sky ability was only at the 1st level. Xinyuan Wuhuang's Forbidden Sky ability was at the 6th level. The two of them couldn't be compared at all. Forbidden Sky ability. Release it for me. While speaking, Xinyuan Wuhuang's body flashed with a scarlet halo that spread out and covered an area of 2,000 meters. The area was even wider than Qin Hao's. At this moment, his face was full of confidence. Forbidden Sky ability? Qin Hao was stunned for a moment. He felt it was funny in his heart. Xinyuan Wuhuang mistook the power of the domain for the garbage Forbidden Sky ability of a king-level powerhouse. He was really ignorant and inexperienced. How is it? Do you feel that you can't move? Under my 6 levels of Forbidden Sky ability, you can only be a fish on the chopping board at my mercy. And this time, I will risk my life and release 9 times the gravity to crush you into meat paste. As the saying goes, you have to get up from where you fall. Xinyuan Wuhuang was stunned when he saw Qin Hao. He thought that he had subdued him. Then, he would gamble everything and release 9 times the gravity that he had never dared to try. Only by killing Qin Hao with his gravity source spirit would Xinyuan Wuhuang feel a sense of accomplishment. While speaking, he decisively released it. An incomparably violent cyan light wave mixed with his scarlet Forbidden Sky ability. With a buzz, it expanded to a radius of 1,000 meters. In this area, one could see with the naked eye that the space was like broken glass. It began to crack continuously. Then the cracks separated and the space shattered piece by piece. There was a vortex of space turbulence everywhere. Along with this, Xinyuan Wuhuang's body was on the verge of collapse. His flesh and blood were torn apart, and countless tendons floated out of the wounds, hanging on his body. It was a tragic sight. In order to kill Qin Hao, he was going all out. If you don't die this time, I will die. It's a pity that you don't have the ability to turn the tables. Under my awesome 9 times gravity, smile in the yellow springs. Xinyuan Wuhuang bit his tongue and used the pain to persist his willpower, not letting himself faint. He had to personally watch Qin Hao turn into meat paste bit by bit. However, what was regrettable was that Qin Hao did not change at all, let alone turn into meat paste. He was still alive and well, and even under the 9-fold gravity, he did not lose a single strand of hair. Xinyuan Wuhuang, you're too narcissistic. This is the reason why you can't achieve anything great. He shook his head and sighed. Qin was not subdued by the opponent's Forbidden Sky ability. In fact, after Xinyuan Wuhuang released the Sky Restriction, the 6 layers of Sky Restriction posed no threat to the domain. This discovery confirmed Qin Hao's earlier guess that the Forbidden Sky ability could not be compared to a martial artist's Forbidden Sky ability. Of course, Qin Hao still felt a little uncomfortable. After all, other than the Forbidden Sky ability, Xinyuan Wuhuang also released an additional 9 times gravity. The 9 times gravity made Qin Hao feel that his body was not as light as before. It was as if there was a weight on his shoulders. But this effect was negligible. Now it's time for our game to end. After finishing his sentence, Qin Hao's palm flashed, and the Taishu Holy Thorn appeared in his hand. A layer of scorching flame covered the sword, as if it could burn through the sky. Red lotus exploding flame blade. Boom! From afar, 1,000-meter-long flame wave slashed down and landed on top of Xianyuan Wuhuang's head. The red lotus soul fire carried the aura of death, causing Xianyuan Wuhuang to scream in fear. How is this possible? You should be subdued by my forbidden sky ability and die under my 9 times gravity. But in reality, how could he know? In Qin Hao's domain, everything moved according to Qin Hao's thoughts. Because Xianyuan Wuhuang released his gravity source spirit, not being controlled by the domain was already a blessing. But he still wanted to control Qin Hao. He really didn't know what was good for him. With the arrival of danger, Xianyuan Wuhuang quickly took out a jade talisman from his space ring and crushed the jade talisman. Immediately, a layer of surging purple light enveloped him. How long? With the sound of an explosion, the red lotus flame wave slammed into the purple light. With this collision, Qin Hao's invincible red lotus unique technique was instantly shattered. The flames scattered everywhere, and the domain was instantly destroyed. Moreover, he also received a backlash. He couldn't hold back a mouthful of blood as it sprayed out in front of his chest. But Xianyuan Wuhuang was also in a pitiful state. His entire body was slammed down by Qin Hao's exploding flame blade and turned into an afterimage as he fell to the ground. There was a 3-meter deep hole in the ground where he landed. After landing, Xianyuan Wuhuang was already half dead. Just as he had said, if the 9-fold gravity couldn't kill Qin Hao, the one who would die would be Xianyuan Wuhuang. At the moment, he had suffered a severe backlash. All the meridians in his body had been broken and his dantian had been ruptured. Damn it, he actually destroyed the jade talisman my father gave me. Blood spurted out of Xianyuan Wuhuang's mouth. That jade talisman could withstand the full force attack of a first-level Yuan Venerate. Yet Qin Hao had actually destroyed it with a single slash of his sword. This slash had also completely exhausted all of Xianyuan Wuhuang's trump cards. However, he wasn't discouraged. He still wanted to get up, but after struggling for a while, he realized that he couldn't even move his fingers and could only lie down miserably. However, as Qin Hao descended from the sky and walked over, Xianyuan Wuhuang wasn't afraid at all. You actually have a life-saving talisman given to you by a Venerate powerhouse. It seems like your background is really tough. Qin Hao's sword was pressed against Xianyuan Wuhuang's throat. He only needed to stab it forward gently to end this traitor's life. Qin Hao, don't kill him. We can't afford to offend this person. Yi Wuhen, supported by Han Man, hurriedly stopped Xianyuan Wuhuang. His words seemed to be full of fear for Xianyuan Wuhuang. Ha ha ha, that's right. You can't afford to offend me. Furthermore, my background is so tough that Qin Hao can't even imagine it. I am from the Southern Region's Proud God Nation and a branch disciple of the Proud God Nation's Xianyuan family. My father is the head of the branch. Xianyuan Wuhuang spoke proudly. If he hadn't been lying on the ground and unable to move, he would have pointed his finger at Qin Hao's nose. Gasp! Everyone was shocked when they heard this. This was especially true for Naransu and Nalanli. As the princesses of Western Liang and Dawei, they naturally knew the background of the Proud God Nation. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the status of the Proud God Nation in the southern region was comparable to that of Luo Shui in Western Liang. However, this was just a metaphor. In fact, the average strength of the people of the southern region was higher than that of the people of the northern region. The northern region was vast and had abundant resources. Their overall combat strength was enough to crush Western Liang. Therefore, as a noble person of the southern region and the first family of the strongest nation, Xianyuan Wuhuang's sense of superiority and the pride on his face could be imagined. But, so what? Qin Hao wasn't surprised at all. In fact, his eyes were full of disdain. The southern region? Was it very strong? 600 years ago, Qin Hao had killed 2 emperors of the southern region. The first emperor of the southern region was so scared that he didn't dare to fight. At that time, the first emperor of the southern region was Xianyuan Wuqian, the ancestor of the main branch of the Proud God Nation's Xianyuan family, known as the Gravity Emperor. Chapter 744. However, in Xin Yuan Wu Huang's eyes, he didn't think so. He revealed his noble status, and Xin Hao and the others should treat him as their own father. Then, he said arrogantly, "So, hurry up and treat me. Do your best to repair my meridians and compensate me for my injuries. Also kneel down immediately. Kneel before me and beg for my forgiveness like a dog. If not, once my father and grandfather find out what happened to me in Western Liang, they only need to move their little fingers to turn you into ashes. Oh no, I'll bury the whole of Qiangbin with you." Xin Yuan Wu Huang cursed fiercely with an abnormally fierce expression. Brother Qin Hao, Nailin Li seemed to be frightened. Her face was pale as she hid behind Qin Hao. "Alliance Master, what should we do? I'm not afraid of death, but what if?" Han Man's face was full of anxiety. He was afraid that he would implicate the school and cause a disaster. In response, Qin Hao didn't say anything. Instead, he clenched his fists and a fierce murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Sigh. Yi Wuhan shook his head. He thought that Qin Hao was frightened. At this time, he stood up and said in a tactful tone, "Xin Yuan Wu Huang, since we're brothers from the same sect, I'll first apologize to you. Don't worry, we'll treat your injuries. And while you're injured, we'll do our best to protect you. Wait until we return. After that, we'll treat you as if nothing happened. You'll still be the second most powerful person in the Scarlet Sun cabinet. What do you think?" While speaking, Yi Wuhan dragged his injuries and squatted down with difficulty. His hand trembled as he took out a red pill from his chest. He looked at it a few times with great reluctance and was about to feed it to Xin Yuan Wu Huang. Spit. Unexpectedly, Xin Yuan Wu Huang took advantage of Yi Wuhan's approach to spit a mouthful of bloody saliva on his face. Then, he opened his mouth and bit Yi Wuhan's hand. If it weren't for the crowd hurriedly separating them, Yi Wuhan's hand would have been bitten off. It's just a trash king pill. Even feeding it to my dog makes me feel inferior. You actually want to give it to me? At the very least, you should take out a Zun pill to show your sincerity. Xin Yuan Wu Huang looked at Yi Wuhan with disdain. He felt that the king-grade pill in Yi Wuhan's hand was just a piece of junk. You're not allowed to speak nonsense. This pill was personally refined by my master. It's a top-grade blood-replenishing imperial pill. It can greatly reduce your pain. It didn't matter if Yi Wuhan was injured, but the other party couldn't insult Yao Lao. As one of the few 8th-grade alchemists in Western Liang, Yao Lao's status was very high. The pills he refined could not be bought with money. He would only give them to those who had the opportunity. However, Xin Yuan Wu Huang actually disliked it. At this moment, the others were also furious. Xing wanted nothing more than to slaughter Xin Yuan Wu Huang. Under Yao Lao's guidance, she had improved rapidly. Oh, so it was refined by that old vice president. All right, I'll reluctantly swallow it first. Xin Yuan Wu Huang opened his mouth, looking like an emperor, and asked Yi Wuhan to feed him again. In fact, he really needed an 8th-grade alchemist pill to relieve his pain. After taking the pill, Xin Yuan Wu Huang's complexion immediately improved. It turned from pale to rosy. The broken skin began to gradually heal, and the blood stopped flowing. The efficacy of this top-grade blood-replenishing imperial pill made everyone gasp in admiration. It also made Yi Wuhan's heart ache. When used on ordinary people, it could bring them back to life. It was not an exaggeration to call it a divine pill. However, it was given to Xin Yuan Wu Huang for free. This pill was a gift from my master when I became his disciple. He kept it for 3 years and was reluctant to use it. I hope that after you eat it, you will keep your promise and not pursue junior brother Qin Hao's responsibility. Yi Wuhan said with a pleading look in his eyes. Then, he waved his hand and signaled Han Man to carry Xin Yuan Wu Huang on his back. Wait! Suddenly, Xin Yuan Wu Huang stopped him and sneered. You want me to let go of Qin Hao? You're thinking too much. You haven't compensated me for my loss. I think your rainbow sword is pretty good. This sword was my master's personal sword in the past. It's an upper-grade king weapon. When he passed it to me, he warned me not to lose it. So you mean to say that you want everyone to die? Xin Yuan Wu Huang interrupted him directly. Okay, I'll give it to you. Yi Wuhan gritted his teeth and took out the rainbow sword. He placed it beside Xin Yuan Wu Huang, and his face was full of humiliation. Also, I don't have many earth crystals left. Xin Yuan Wu Huang smiled with satisfaction and continued. Pa! Qin Hao took out a cyan ring and threw it at his face. He said coldly, "There's 300,000 inside. It's enough for you to buy 10,000 coffins." Pa! 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 Immediately, everyone took off their rings and threw them at Xin Yuan Wu Huang's face. 50,000 earth crystals. 10,000 earth crystals. 8,000 earth crystals. I'm just a commoner, but my talent isn't that good. After 3 years of hard work, I only have 2,000 earth crystals. I'll give them all to you. Han Man put down his ring with tears in his eyes. Among all of them, Yi Wuhan had the most earth crystals. He had 50,000. Can you let junior brother Han Man carry you now? Yi Wuhan tried his best to control himself, but he was already angry. Not yet. Xin Yuan Wu Huang smiled. I've taken the medicine, and I accept the compensation. But where's your apology? Crack! It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck their eyes, startling everyone. Xin Yuan Wu Huang's apology was to make everyone kneel down like dogs. Chapter 745. You son of 8B *TCH, asking you to kneel is a gift from me. How dare you say that I've gone too far? So what if I've gone too far? If you're not convinced, you can beat me to death. Do you dare to do it? Xin Yuan Wu Huang laughed unscrupulously. With the support of the Xin Yuan family in the southern region, Han Man wouldn't dare to do it even if he had 10,000 guts. I'll kill you. Han Man was completely enraged. His eyes were red. As he spoke, he raised his sandbag-sized fist and punched toward Xin Yuan Wu Huang's face. However, this punch was blocked by Yi Wuhan. Yi Wuhan looked at everyone and helplessly said, "As the eldest senior brother of the inner pavilion, I should bear all the blame. Let me, Yi Wuhan, kneel and apologize to you on behalf of Qiyang." As soon as he finished speaking, the arrogant Yi Wuhan knelt in front of everyone in front of Xin Yuan Wu Huang. This was worse than taking Yi Wuhan's life, but he had to endure it. Damn it, he's too hateful. Everyone was indignant. Ha ha, Yi Wuhan, you didn't expect this day to come, right? Where's your backbone? Where's your dignity? You didn't even bother to look at me in the eye before. Why are you kneeling like a dog? Ha ha, I'm so happy. Xin Yuan Wu Huang laughed wildly. The happier he laughed, the more humiliated Yi Wuhan felt. He clenched his fists so hard that cracking sounds could be heard. I've already knelt. Please forgive me. What did you say? Louder. Please be magnanimous and forgive us for offending you. Xin Yuan Wu Huang. Yi Wuhan roared. So you can do it. Now, call the great senior brother Wu Huang. Didn't you look down on me before? You think you're invincible? Xin Yuan Wu Huang raised his nose. This was a rare opportunity to humiliate Yi Wuhan. Great senior brother Wu Huang, please forgive me. I was wrong. Yi Wuhan's forehead was full of veins. He used his remaining reason to tell himself not to be impulsive. Otherwise, all his previous efforts would be wasted. Then, he said, "Are you satisfied now? Not bad. I accept your apology, but..." Xin Yuan Wu Huang paused and looked at the others with a sinister smile. Everyone suddenly felt that something was wrong. Could it be that Xin Yuan Wu Huang wanted to act shamelessly again? I can ignore the others, but that little bastard Qin Hao must kneel in front of me and kowtow 1,001 times. Otherwise, I will mobilize my family's power and wash Qiangbin with blood. Xin Yuan Wu Huang finally fixed his eyes on Qin Hao. The hatred in his eyes seemed to be able to tear people apart. Losing to Qin Hao was the greatest humiliation of his life. He had lost without the slightest bit of dignity. He had lost completely. 6 layers of forbidden space and 9 times the gravity were unable to affect Qin Hao in the slightest. Xin Yuan Wu Huang absolutely could not accept this humiliation. Moreover, even the life-saving jade talisman that his father had given him had been shattered by Qin Hao. If Qin Hao did not kneel, it would be difficult for him to vent the hatred in his heart. Xin Yuan Wu Huang, You're courting death. At this moment, had already reached the end of her patience. No one in the world could afford to make Qin Hao kneel. As she spoke, a cold light flashed in her hand. She closed in and stabbed Xianyuan Wuhuang in the heart. This not only shocked the others, but Xianyuan Wuhuang himself was so scared that his face turned pale. It was true that he wanted to humiliate everyone, but he really did not want to die. However, Xing Er's anger had exploded to the extreme. She could no longer control herself. Swoosh! Just as Xing Er's sharp stab was only 0.01 millimeters away from Xianyuan Wuhuang's heart, a strong palm pressed down on her delicate little hand. Qin Hao smiled and pinched the tip of Xing Er's nose. Xing immediately seemed to melt. Her anger disappeared in an instant. Then, she obediently stood to the side. This caused Yi Wuhan to let out a long sigh of depression. Xianyuan Wuhuang, I can kneel to you. However, I want to know why you, as the descendant of such an awesome family of the proud God nation, did not stay in the rich southern region. Why did you come to our barren western Liang? Qin Hao squatted down slightly and looked at Xianyuan Wuhuang face to face. Do you King think I wanted to? It's all because of the damn old man in my family. He asked me to find the power of fire element and water element and sent me to this barren place in western Liang. Xianyuan Wuhuang was infuriated at the mention of this name. He even spat and bellowed. He was so angry that his chest heaved up and down violently. The veins on his forehead bulged and his lips turned blue. Fire element and water element? What's that? Qin Hao looked at him, pretending to be puzzled. You won't understand even if I tell you. However, since you're willing to kneel, I'll be merciful and explain it to you ignorant ants of western Liang. Have you heard of the most terrifying formation in the continent, the Nine Heavens God's Punishment Formation? Xianyuan Wuhuang asked with a profound expression, as if he knew a lot. Nine Heavens God's Punishment Formation? Everyone looked at each other in dismay. This name sounded very scary. However, no one had heard of it before. However, Qin Hao's body trembled slightly. Others might not have heard of it, but he knew it the best and had experienced it personally. In his previous life, Qin Hao had died in this formation. However, on the surface, he pretended not to know. What formation is this? Is it very powerful? It's more than powerful. It can even annihilate the soul of a god instantly. Don't you think it's terrifying enough? 600 years ago, there was a peerless Dendi in the continent. Speaking of this Dendi, his name was actually the same as yours. He was also called Qin Hao. Xianyuan Wuhuang began to talk at length. Chapter 746. In fact, Dendu wasn't killed by the rebels. He had a divine bow and arrow, and no one on the continent was his match. In the end, he died under the Nine Heavens God's punishment array in the Valley of the Gods. Coincidentally, my ancestor was one of the 12 Yuan emperors who were in charge of encircling and killing Dendi. Ha ha ha, amazing! Xianyuan Wuhuang laughed proudly. His ancestor joined forces with the other heroes to kill Dendi. As a descendant, he felt extremely honored. As he spoke, he continued to explain in detail that the Nine Heavens God's punishment array used the top 9 elements of the continent. You won't understand, even if I explain the 9 elements. In short, they killed Dendi. However, only Dendi's remains were left at the scene. A black light swept away the 9 elements of the array. It was very strange. The power of the 9 elements is unparalleled. Obtaining one of them is enough to laugh at the world and look down on the heroes. For the past 600 years, the Xianyuan family has been secretly searching for the whereabouts of the 9 elements and was extremely lucky to find the Qinkuan Earth. I, Xianyuan Wuhuang, was sent by my family to Shiliang. The Earth realm is in charge of secretly searching for the other elements. I guess that the fire and water elements must be here. After saying so much, do you bunch of trash understand? Xianyuan Wuhuang's mouth was dry, but he looked very excited. After all, killing Dendi of Daqin was such an amazing thing. It would be praised by the future generations. If Xianyuan Wuhuang was born 600 years ago, he would definitely have participated in that earth-shattering battle and wanted to personally tear Qin Hao into pieces to obtain supreme glory. Instantly, the scene fell silent. A solemn mourning was imperceptibly reflected in every disciple of the Qiyang family. They didn't feel that killing Dindi was very honorable. On the contrary, Dindi relied on his own strength to fight against the 12 Yuan emperors. He was truly an unparalleled man. He was a true hero. Unfortunately, he was framed and fell into the trap of the 9 heavens gods' punishment array. It was really sad and regretful. Truly despicable. If I, Han Man, was born 600 years ago, I really want to get to know Dindi and fight side by side with him. From today onwards, apart from Big Brother Qin Hao, the fallen Dindi will be the second person I, Nalan Li, admire. I wish I was born 600 years ago so that I could admire Dindi's arrogance. After all, he is the alchemist that my master, Yao Lao, worships the most. He is also the continent's greatest alchemist. The Pill Emperor created a generation of glory. Xing has always admired mighty and unyielding heroes. Dindi is one, and so is young master. Xing looked at Qin Hao affectionately. Maybe the great Dindi was stronger than Qin Hao, but in terms of integrity, she felt that they were very similar. Therefore, there was no difference between them. Qin Hao was also a hero. Instantly, everyone present praised Dindi again. They wished they could travel through time and space to witness the hot-blooded battle of life and death in the Valley of the Gods. I see. Silently, Qin Hao thought to himself. This was the reason why the southern regions, Xianyuan Wuhuang, came to western Liang. It seemed that it wasn't just him. The top figures of the continent who surrounded him hadn't been idle for the past 600 years. They were trying their best to find the whereabouts of the 9 great elements. Moreover, the universe divine soil had already fallen into the hands of the Xianyuan family. Perhaps the others had found other elements. Qin Hao felt that he should hurry up and leave western Liang as soon as possible. After collecting the 9 great elements, he would summon the 9 heavens gods' punishment array again. If the universe divine soil fell into the hands of others, it would cause more trouble for him in the future. But that's good. Since the Xianyuan family has found the universe divine soil, I don't need to waste my time collecting it. When the time comes, I will go and use it. After making up his mind, Qin Hao decided to save Wan Qin as soon as possible and then go to the northern region to pick up Xiao Han. His next target was the Xianyuan family in the southern region. In fact, he really wanted to thank the idiot Xianyuan Wu Huang for telling him such important information. Moreover, the idiot didn't guess that the fire origin Red Lotus and the water origin Purifying Jade were indeed left in western Liang. However, these 2 treasures had already fallen into Qin Hao's hands and had been refined into his original soul. What are you waiting for? Qin Hao, kneel down and count out to me 1,001 times. You bastard, your name is extraordinary. It's the same as that damn Dindi. But I can take the opportunity to imagine that it's the Daqin Dindin kneeling in front of me, Xianyuan Wu Huang. Huh? Also, let Han Man, this dirty thing, stay away from me. If you want to carry me, let Qin Hao's woman do it. Xianyuan Wu Huang looked at Xing with an arrogant face, implying that he wanted a girl to carry him, a cripple. I like to let Qin Hao's woman carry me, especially an unruly woman. Conquering a little wild horse will make me more happy. No, you must kill everyone in Red Sun City, and blood will flow like a river. At that time, even the vice president can't protect you. All of you will die. Xianyuan Wu Huang clenched his teeth, and his words were extremely vicious. His words not only made everyone's faces change drastically, but also aroused their anger. This time, even Yi Wuhan almost couldn't control himself and wanted to hack this bastard 1,000 times. Oh, you want me to kneel? Qin Hao's expression was calm. After squatting, his face was even closer to Xianyuan Wu Huang. That's right. Hurry up and submit to me. Xianyuan Wu Huang raised his nose. You still want Xing to carry you? Qin Hao leaned closer, and their noses almost collided. That's her honor, and also your honor. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that I can't move, I'd like to have a taste of her body. Xianyuan Wu Huang was unscrupulous and didn't take Qin Hao seriously at all. I'll kill you, you little bastard. Han Man was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. As he spoke, a fist the size of a sandbag came crashing down with a whoosh. No, 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 no. Qin Hao hurriedly stopped him. Alliance leader, this bastard is so arrogant. Do you still want to tolerate him? Han Man couldn't take it anymore and was a little disappointed in Qin Hao. When Xianyuan Wu Huang saw this, his smile became even more brilliant, like a chrysanthemum flower that was fluttering in the wind. No, 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 don't misunderstand me. Hitting him with your fists will only dirty your hands. There, Qin Hao pointed at the broken golden jadestone square. There's stones over there. Smash him to death and smash him into a small meat paste. Don't come back to see me until you've done it 1,001 times. When he finished speaking, Qin Hao also turned around and left with his hands behind his back. No, you can't do this. I'm a noble from the southern region, the son of the Xianyuan family's branch leader. You lowly ants, if you dare to touch me, you'll die a horrible death, bang. Before Xianyuan Wu Huang could finish speaking, a huge golden jadestone that was harder than diamond landed on his mouth. Chapter 747. Yi Wuhan, I'm your second uncle. You dare to smash my honorable Southern Mountain Range people? Pung. The second blow fell without mercy. Southern Mountain Range, your mother, I'm the young master of a branch of the Xianyuan family. My status is high. Pung. I'll let you go first. Don't smash. Don't smash. I don't want to die. Senior brother Wuhan, I was wrong. Pung. Since we're brothers, then let's have a good exchange of feelings. Qin Hao, come back quickly. They want to smash me to death. No matter who you call, it's useless. Eat my crazy, spiraling sky smash. Along with a furious roar, Han Man picked up a huge pillar that was 20 feet long and fell from the sky with his head down. He spun 360 degrees crazily and stabbed the pillar into Xianyuan Wu Huang's head. Kacha! After this painful blow, the entire pillar was covered in spider webs, and it broke in Han Man's arms. Xianyuan Wu Huang let out a hoarse scream, but no one cared about his scream, and it was immediately drowned out by the new smashing sound. Pung, pung, pung. The smashing sound came one after another. Gradually, Xianyuan Wu Huang's screams became weaker and weaker, and finally completely disappeared. However, Han Man and Yi Wuhan still didn't stop, because Qin Hao had said that after 1,001 smashes, he would be smashed into a small meat paste. On the other side, in the east and west corners of the square, there were two groups fighting to their heart's content, incomparably fierce. On one side was Xiaogua against Huang Tiandu. Although his realm was lower than the other side by 2 levels, after Xiaogua absorbed the soul into his body, not only his physique, but also his battle strength had increased at the same time. The current situation was one-sided, suppressing Huang Tiandu. Huang Tiandu's snake blade sword spirit was inferior to the bull demon body in terms of grade, so it couldn't break Xiaogua's defense and couldn't resist at all. Not long after, Melon Lord would add another glorious record, ushering in the victory of a higher realm challenge. However, the situation in the other battle group was not optimistic. Qin Hao left Tian Boguang to rescue Yi Wuhan and successfully defeated Xianyuan Wu Huang. Yi Shuihan was currently facing off against Tian Boguang and Yi Shuifeng, two geniuses who were crazily attacking. Yi Shuifeng was still fine since he was naturally countered by Yi Shuihan. However, the more Tian Boguang fought, the fiercer he became. Moreover, he was unscrupulous. He had already caused a lot of trouble for Yi Shuihan. Moreover, under the pincer attack of the two, he was gradually at a disadvantage. Good for you, Yi, to be able to withstand our pincer attacks and still be able to persist for so long. Now, it's time to show you my true strength. Tian Boguang floated in the air, his forehead beaded with sweat as he panted slightly. Yi Shuihan was more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. He had to expend a lot of effort to barely suppress him. After catching his breath, Tian Boguang opened his arms. Immediately, The flames on his body became even more intense. Moreover, the flames began to drill into his body, absorb the soul into the body. Open. After a roar, Tian Buowang's entire body disappeared and turned into a body of flames. He became like when he fought with Qin Hao in the New Star competition. The moment he turned into a body of flames, his speed, strength, and explosive power were significantly enhanced. He turned into a wisp of fire and charged directly at Yi Shuihan. Yi Shuihan couldn't help but smile bitterly. At this moment, he was sweating profusely. He had consumed more energy than Tian Buowang. However, he had no way out. He had to hold on. Now it's time for me to show my true strength, Yi Shuihan said calmly. At this moment, his body gradually became illusory and emitted surging water vapor. Swoosh! At this moment, a bright red flame suddenly flew past Yi Shuihan and collided with Tian Buowang. A loud boom reverberated through the void. I'll deal with Tian Buowang. Go do what you need to do. Qin Hao finally rushed back. Boss! Yi Shuihan looked in surprise at the bright red flame fighting with Tian Buowang and nodded. Understood. Then, he smiled at Yi Shuihan. At this moment, Yi Shuihan was also floating in the air. He bent over and panted like a dog. His entire body was soaked in sweat, which dripped down from the corners of his clothes. Clearly, he had consumed more energy than Yi Shuihan. At this moment, his face was wrinkled like the skin of a dried fruit. He knew very well that neither of them could take down Yi Shuihan. At this moment, Tian Buowang was entangled with Qin Hao. Yi Shuihan was the only one left. It seemed that things weren't looking good for him. You want to murder me and usurp my position as prince. I have to admit that your idea is very promising. Unfortunately, a subordinate will always be a subordinate. You don't have the qualifications to absorb your soul into your body. Yi Shuihan no longer held back. After a deep roar, his body turned completely illusory. It was like Tian Buowang had turned into a man of fire. The difference was that Yi Shuihan had transformed into a body of water. However, his body of water looked incomparably sacred. It emitted a dazzling silver glow. He was more than 2 meters tall, and his face was dignified. It seemed that his body was wrapped in a layer of transparent armor, which made him look like a real god who had descended to earth. He was filled with a sacred aura. This is... Yi Shuihan was stunned. In fact, he could absorb his soul into his body and transform into a man of water with the power of his primordial spirit. However, compared to Prince Yi Shuihan, the appearance of the man of water he transformed into was more than 1,000,000 times worse. It was like a stinking puddle trying to compete with a vast ocean. Bring out your fighting spirit and fight with me. Even as a subordinate, you should have the pride of a royal. You can lose your life, but not your dignity. Before you die, don't disgrace the Yi clan. Godspear! Yi Shuihan shouted mightily. He stretched out his arm and grabbed a 5-meter-long water spear out of thin air. Then, he threw the spear at Yi Shuihan. Chapter 748. Forbidden Air, Water Shield. Yi Shuifan's face was filled with shock. He immediately released the forbidden air power and pushed his palms in front of him. His source spirit condensed into a giant water shield. The water shield shined brightly, and the water energy was incomparably strong. However, this water shield was useless in front of Yi Shuihan's God's water spear. Unsurprisingly, the water spear directly broke through the forbidden air power, and without any obstruction, it pierced through Yi Shuifan's water shield and entered his chest. Yi Shuihan screamed as his body fell to the ground. After falling to the ground, he wildly spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Whether it was his realm, cultivation, or the grade of his source spirit, he was not on the same level as Yi Shuihan. He was completely suppressed by the other side. Looking at the thumb-sized hole in his chest, Yi Shuihan was powerless to reverse the situation. But he did not give up and roared, "Stop! I have something to say. Do you want to leave behind your last words?" Yi Shuihan floated down, bringing with him the aura of an emperor. He also dispersed the water god body avatar. The outcome was already decided. There was no need to waste energy to maintain the water god avatar. At this time, with a muffled sound, Huang Tiandu, whose face was bruised and swollen, his facial features were distorted, and his teeth were broken, was also thrown to the side of Yishui Feng by Qi Xiaogua. Brother Han. Xiaogua recalled the bull demon body and patted the dust off his hands with a relaxed expression. The smile on his face seemed to say, I won. Isn't it amazing? Yishui Han nodded and gave Xiaogua a thumbs up, meaning amazing. 2 levels lower than the opponent and still able to defeat Huang Tiandu. Xiaogua was indeed worthy of being proud. Gulp. Yishui Feng looked at the pig-head Huang Tiandu, who was delirious, swallowing his saliva with difficulty. Their defeat was set, but perhaps there was still a chance. He bravely pointed at Yishui Han and said, Yishui Han, let's stop fighting for a while. Why don't we watch the battle between Qin Hao and Tian Buwang first? You can make a bet. Oh, want to bet? Yishui Han sneered disdainfully. He thought the other party was going to leave behind his last words. But what right do you have to bet with me now? Are you scared? Yilong Yuan's son turned out to be such a coward. But it was also reasonable, because Qin Hao was simply not Tian Buwang's opponent. I firmly believe that Tian Buwang would definitely win. So even if you kill me, you won't be able to escape death with me. Yishui Feng smiled sarcastically. He admitted that he was no match for Yishui Han, but Qin Hao could not beat Tian Buwang. Nonsense. I'll kill you first. Xiaogua hated it the most when others tarnished Qin Hao's image. With a furious roar, he took out the holy war sword and prepared to reap Yi Shuifeng's life. Wait. Yi Shuihan stopped him, then stared at Yi Shuihan and said, You don't have to waste your time trying to stall for time so that Tian Buwang can save you. My boss will never lose. And even if he loses, I, Yi Shuihan, am still here. Although he said that, Yi Shuihan was indeed unsure and felt a little weak. Through the exchange just now, he faintly felt that Tian Buwang still had more reservations. His battle strength might be more terrifying than he had imagined. And so far, he had not used any trump cards. Even if Yi Shuihan fought with him at the peak of the water god's body, his chances of winning were less than 50%. So at this moment, he was still very worried. Are you feeling guilty? Ha ha. It seems that you also know how strong Tian Buwang is. To tell you the truth, I didn't give up the #1 position in the Star Moon Cabinet willingly. In fact, I fought with Tian Buwang. In the end, he only used half of his full strength, but I couldn't get close to him. You can't even get close to him. You're just like an ant. A trace of fear flashed across Yi Shuifeng's face. As the former #1 person in the Star Moon Cabinet, he felt a chill down his spine every time he recalled the scene of him fighting with Tian Buwang that day. Immediately, a sharp light flashed in his eyes as he gritted his teeth and said, So, you're also afraid of losing, so you don't dare to bet with me. Bullshit. My big brother will never lose to Tian Buwang. He won against him once, and he can win again today. Xiaogua inexplicably became anxious. He couldn't imagine Qin Hao losing. He couldn't bear it. Okay, I'll bet with you. Yi Shuihan suddenly gritted his teeth and nodded in agreement. He also wanted to see the peak battle between Qin Hao and Tian Buwang. Perhaps Tian Buwang's full strength was indeed very strong, but Qin Hao seemed to have obtained a lot of opportunities during this period. If Qin Hao couldn't win against Tian Buwang, how could Yi Shuihan be Tian Buwang's opponent at that time? Moreover, as brothers, the bet was related to Qin Hao's reputation. If Yi Shuihan didn't dare to bet, it was obvious that he didn't have confidence in Qin Hao. Ha ha ha, just wait to lose. You can't imagine how terrifying Tian Buwang is. And if you lose, I want you to personally write a letter of abdication, saying that you are too incompetent, not capable of being a prince, and even more incapable of leading the Luoshui Empire. Willingly give up the position of prince to me. I, Yi Shuifeng, will be the best successor to the Luoshui in the future. Yi Shuifeng raised his nose and said. He cursed the other party in his heart. Wasn't it just because he had a good father and became the son of the dragon Abyss Great Emperor? But so what? At that time, if Lan Yuan didn't agree, he would mobilize the Yi clan's elder group to impeach him. Moreover, Yi Shuifeng's father was the commander of the Whitewater Corps. He was in a high position and had privately roped in many members of the elder group. Okay, then let's witness this peak battle that is related to the future of the Luo Shui Empire. Chapter 749. High up in the sky, two fiery figures were entangled. One emitted a black and red light, while the other emitted a dark red brilliance. They flew back and forth, colliding from time to time and letting out thunderous sounds. When they fought again, both of them had activated their first source spirit. It was not like the first time when they were just probing each other. At this moment, Qin Hao and Tian Boguang were fighting more aggressively. However, as time passed, in terms of consumption, it was obvious that Qin Hao had the absolute advantage. Tian Boguang was beginning to be unable to maintain his flame body. With a pung sound, he was the first to return to his original form. I didn't expect that you would also obtain a soul fire. Moreover, the quality of your soul fire is not inferior to mine. You really surprised me. Tian Boguang quickly gasped for breath. The sweat dripping from his face was much more than when he fought with Yi Shuihan. Even so, there was no fear on his face. He was only surprised. Surprised? What will surprise you is yet to come. The warm-up exercise is over. Take out some real strength. Otherwise, you will still lose miserably. Qin Hao dispersed the red lotus flame incarnation and floated in the air with his hands behind his back. His face was not red, and he was not out of breath. After a fierce battle, it was as if nothing had happened. Tian Boguang was warming up, so was Qin Hao. Very good. You are worthy to be my, Tian Boguang's, opponent. If I beat you down with 3 punches and 2 kicks, I won't feel any sense of accomplishment. Take this, Flaming Dipper Fist. While speaking, Tian Boguang was serious. The dissipated black flames on his body condensed again, and it was several times denser than before. The black flames were densely packed, like the tentacles of a devil, looking extremely ferocious. At this moment, a ball of black flames wrapped around his fist. Tian Boguang's overall aura began to rapidly increase. Flaming Dipper Fist? Qin Hao was stunned. Immediately, the corners of his mouth revealed a sneer. It was this move again. He remembered that Sword Prince had once said that Tian Boguang was known as the One-Punch Man in Starry Moon Academy. It meant that one punch was enough to kill people. There was absolutely no need for a second punch. Those who had seen his second punch were all dead. This Flaming Dipper Fist was his most prized skill. However, during the Rising Star competition, Tian Boguang had punched Qin Hao twice in a row, but he hadn't hurt a single hair on Qin Hao's head. Now, the other party even dared to use this move. Don't be complacent. The current me is no longer the same as before. My Blazing Dipper Fist has also received a perfect upgrade. This time, I'll take your dog life. Go. Seeing Qin Hao's sarcastic smile, the scar in Tian Boguang's heart was opened, and a sense of shame welled up in his heart. The feeling of humiliation immediately turned into the strength of his revenge. As he spoke, he threw out a punch. His fist spat out a black flame that was 20 feet long. It was as strong as a pillar and crashed straight into Qin Hao's chest, wanting to pierce through and tear him apart. This scene shocked everyone below. Even from afar, he could sense that Tian Boguang's punch was comparable to a peak Yuan monarch's. It definitely could not take it head-on. Even if Qin Hao could take it head-on, he would definitely suffer serious injuries. I'm guessing that Qin Hao will definitely dodge. Ha ha! Run. Run like a rabbit. Isn't he very fast? What's the use of being fast? A rabbit will die at the hands of a hunter sooner or later. Yi Shuifeng laughed happily. In terms of aura alone, Tian Boguang was suppressing Qin Hao at this moment. Boss! Yi Shuihan clenched his fists and looked up without blinking. To be honest, even if he faced this punch, he would have to dodge it. It was not worth it to take it head-on. In fact, Sayowa had already opened his mouth and shouted desperately, "Big brother, dodge." However, Qin Hao chose not to dodge and stood on the spot. He sneered and said, "You are no longer the same as before." However, how can I, Qin Hao, be the same as the Qin Hao of the past? After saying this, he stretched out his right hand and gradually clenched it into a fist. A layer of dense golden scales rapidly covered the surface of his fist. When Tian Boguang's big pillar was about to hit his cheek, Qin Hao's eyes narrowed, and he suddenly punched out. Boom! The sound of heaven and earth cracking was heard. There were black and red flames everywhere. The mighty big pillar was actually shattered by Qin Hao's punch. Black ashes flew everywhere. It was simply mighty to the extreme. In the end, Qin Hao blew on his right hand lightly and said inwardly in a helpless tone, "Now, I'm actually a real punch man. This Tian Boguang is nothing." Phew! Everyone below breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. They had been sweating just now. They thought that Qin Hao would be injured. But now it seems that Big Brother's cultivation is really unfathomable. Xiaogu's nervous expression immediately turned into worship. Damn it, Qin Hao is actually so strong. He blocked it from the front. Damn it. Yi Shuifeng felt that his face had been slapped by someone. It was burning hot. No, please understand that it was scattered. It was not as simple as blocking. The two are not the same concept. I really wonder how someone with your intelligence became a king stage master. In this regard, Yi Shuihan looked at Yi Shuifeng with disdain. His eyes were full of disgust. What? In the air, Tian Boguang was also shocked. He gritted his teeth and his face twisted. Qin Hao defeated his evolved flaming dipper fist so easily. He was slapped in the face again. I thought I was strong enough. I didn't expect Qin Hao to be so strong. Very good, very good. You are enough to make me use half of my strength. Do you dare to take another punch from me? If you have the ability, don't dodge. Tian Boguang angrily pointed at Qin Hao and said he was finally going to use half of his strength. Chapter 750. Back then, Yi Shuifeng had been defeated by half of Tian Boguang's power. Even though he had tried his best, he hadn't been able to shake Tian Boguang at all. It had been like an ant going against an elephant. Furthermore, half of Tian Boguang's power had been enough to fight evenly with Star Moon's chief dean, Tian Shulin, and even gain the upper hand. Of course, Tian Shulin had lowered his cultivation base to peak Yuan Monarch at that time. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Tian Boguang could easily kill any monarch with half of his cultivation base. His destructive power was comparable to a level 1 Yuan Venerate. Therefore, Yi Shuifeng looked at Qin Hao as though he was looking at a dead man. Qin Hao smiled faintly and gestured at Tian Boguang with his finger. Bring it on. Just don't disappoint me. I promise I won't disappoint you. I'll only make you despair. Second form of Flaming Dipper Fist. No fist is better than a fist. Boom! Tian Boguang bellowed. Then, the black flames on his body suddenly expanded and turned into a huge black ball 100 meters in size. However, Tian Boguang's second punch was not punched out with his fist. As he said the word boom, a powerful light wave came out of his mouth. The light wave swept up the huge black ball on his body, turning it into the shape of a fist and blasted towards Qin Hao's position, bringing with it the sound of a hurricane. Its speed was extremely fast, and it was also extremely powerful. Everyone below screamed when they saw this terrifying scene. The fist formed by the black ball was so huge that it was like a black sun blocking the light of day. It seemed as though it wanted to blast Qin Hao into an endless hell. Yi Shuihan could clearly determine that the power of this punch was comparable to a level 1 Yuan Venerate. However, Qin Hao is only a level 4 Yuan Monarch. There was no need to think too much about the consequences. If he was hit, he would definitely be dismembered on the spot. Boss dodge. Big brother dodge. Alliance leader dodge. Big brother Qin Hao. Use your ghostly movement technique quickly. Everyone below the stage said anxiously. Ha ha ha. I've won. I've won. Yi Shuifeng seemed to have seen the outcome. In the end, Qin Hao died, and he became Yi Shuihan's prince. This was because there was no way to dodge this punch. Otherwise, Tian Boguang didn't deserve to be called Two-Punch Man. In fact, Qin Hao had no intention of dodging at all. He nodded slightly, admitting that Tian Boguang's attack was not bad. You're finally showing some form. Since that's the case, I will also use half of my strength. Flame Dragon Fist. Qin Hao shouted loudly. His body was suspended in the air, and he took a bow stance. He raised his right arm and pulled it back. A dazzling golden light spread across his entire arm. Looking at it with the naked eye, it looked like a layer of shining scales. When a huge black fist shadow came, Qin Hao's retracted arm suddenly struck forward, urging the Red Lotus Soul Fire and the Dragon Soul to merge the two souls. Swish! It was as if space had been torn apart. This punch blasted out a dazzling golden light. The golden light collided with Tian Boguang's 100-meter-long black fist shadow, and the black fist shadow disintegrated in the air. In a deafening explosion, this huge black ball fist was shattered by Qin Hao's punch. Moreover, Qin hadn't slowed down at all. He directly rushed in front of Tian Boguang and hit his chest with a bang. A miserable scream came from the sky. Tian Boguang rolled 1,000 meters away, like a tortoise's shell. He was in such a sorry state that even his pants were flung out. Qin Hao had the body of a demigod. The power of a giant dragon in this punch was enough to destroy a small country. It immediately injured Tian Boguang. That's right, it was only an injury, not a serious one. Drip, drip, the sound of water droplets falling into a pool of water sounded. After Tian Boguang steadied himself, he looked at his chest with a dull expression. His clothes on his chest exploded, revealing his firm pectoralis major. However, his pectoralis major had already ruptured, and there was black blood dripping from the cracks in the air. When the black blood fell to the ground, it corroded the grass within a 100-meter radius into nothingness. I'm bleeding? Tian Boguang said in disbelief. Immediately, his expression turned sinister as a strong sense of humiliation welled up in his heart. He had repeated the mistake of the Rising Star competition. He had been slapped by Qin Hao again. Not only had his second punch not hurt his opponent, but he had also been hammered by Qin Hao. How is this possible? Yi Shuifeng's heart was in turmoil. His eyes were wide open. He clearly knew how powerful Tian Boguang's second punch was. It was comparable to a first-level Yuan Venerate, and could even kill a first-level Yuan Venerate. However, Qin Hao, who was a fourth-level Yuan Monarch, had withstood the second punch and even made Tian Boguang bleed. Didn't this mean that Qin Hao's true combat strength had actually surpassed the limits of a Yuan Monarch and reached the level of a Yuan Venerate? He's simply a monster, Yi Shuifeng exclaimed after a long time. He had thought that Tian Boguang was monstrous enough, but he had never expected that Qin Hao would be even more monstrous. A fourth-level Yuan Monarch could unleash the destructive power of a Yuan Venerate. At this point, Yi Shuifeng no longer dared to underestimate Qin Hao. He also understood how insignificant and laughable he was. Big Brother is really impressive. He is indeed worthy of my admiration. Xiaobo mumbled to himself. He had yet to recover from his shock. Even I would have had to use all my strength and use my water god body to block that attack. However, Big Brother only used half of his strength to shatter Tian Boguang's attack and even injure him. This is simply... Yi Shuihan couldn't describe it. However, Yi Shuifeng's voice was suddenly heard. His voice was trembling as he sobbed. Run. While there is still time, let's run away quickly. Escape from the Stone Forest Plaza. Otherwise, we will all die. Everyone couldn't help but be stunned as they turned to look at Yi Shuifeng. Yi Shuifeng suddenly felt a little deranged, as if he was afraid of something. He felt as if a demon was about to descend. Don't just stand there. You don't know how terrifying Tian Boguang is. Don't be delusional. Qin Hao can beat him. That's impossible. Tian Boguang is really angry this time. He will unleash 100% of his strength in the next second. That kind of power is not something we can admire. The aftermath is enough to flatten the Stone Forest Plaza. Run, run. Chapter 751. Tian Boguang clenched his fists, raised his head, and howled. The sound he made was like a demon crawling up from hell. You actually hurt me? Damn it. Since I returned from a northern frontier, no one has ever made me bleed. You, Qin Hao, are the first. Originally, with half of my strength, I thought I could crush you like an ant. But your counterattack really surprised me. If I'm not wrong, you should have twin souls, and that punch just now was the power of the fusion of the two souls. Tian Boguang pointed at Qin Hao and questioned. The so-called second soul was the golden scales that flashed on Qin Hao's arm. In this regard, Qin Hao did not deny it. However, it's still a pity. You have twin souls, and the strength you show is almost unparalleled in the King realm. This is your pride. Yi is your misfortune, because you met me, Tian Boguang. In fact, so far, you should have used up all your trump cards. But I only used the power of one soul fire. In my real trump card, you haven't seen it yet. Now, I'll open your eyes and let you see my Tian Boguang's second soul. Today, you have enough qualifications to force me to use all my strength. You also have the qualifications to die in my hands. This is the glory that belongs to you, Qin Hao. Demon martial arrogant armor. Tian Boguang roared, stretched out his arms, opened his legs, floated in the air, and raised his head. Suddenly, a tide of black gas spread out from behind him, filling the air, covering the sky and the sun, and the atmosphere was oppressive to the extreme. These black gas slowly gathered on his body, layer by layer, sticking to him, getting thicker and thicker, and finally turned into a set of solid black armor. The black armor was very ferocious, wrapping his whole body, leg guards, breastplate, belt, thorny gloves, nothing was missing. Finally, a helmet shaped like a skull was placed on Tian Boguang's head. Furthermore, there were two thick, long, and extremely sharp black spikes protruding from his shoulders. This set of sinister armor was Tian Boguang's second soul. He had obtained it through a kind of demonic mystic technique, and the price was inhumane. He had to chop up 10,000 pregnant women and throw them into a magic furnace to summon the power of demons. The birth characters of the 10,000 pregnant women had to be all negative. It had taken a lot of effort to collect these 10,000 women. The demonic power that Tian Boguang summoned was the demon martial arrogant armor. The armor contained a resentment of 10,000 women and 10,000 unborn babies. This was the reason why he had been reborn. This was also the reason why Yi Feng Shui. After donning the armor, Tian Boguang's aura immediately became different and his cultivation base rose. Level 6 Yuan Monarch. Level 7. Level 8. Level 9. Buzz. The black-purple energy spread out and swirled around Tian Boguang's pitch-black armor. This meant he had indicated he had broken through the Yuan level. Ants, his cultivation, and his cultivation. After reaching the second level Yuan Venerate, the terrifying aura finally stopped rising. Tian Boguang was now a true level 2 Yuan Venerate powerhouse. At the moment, he was like a demon king standing tall in the sky, overshadowing the radiance of the sun. What? Yi Shuihan was stunned. His eyes widened and his body trembled uncontrollably. In a few seconds, Tian Boguang had become a Yuan Venerate powerhouse. However, Qin Hao was only a level 4 Yuan Monarch. The gap between the two of them was huge. Let's go. There was no hesitation. Yi Shuihan rolled up his sleeves and took Qi Shaogua, Nalanli, and the others. They followed closely behind Yi Shuifeng and quickly left the stone forest square. A battle between Venerate powerhouses was not something they could watch. It was like a farmer in the countryside watching a battle between saints while munching on melon seeds. They were simply looking for excitement and were tired of living. Yi Shuihan could only turn back and pray as he ran. He hoped that Qin Hao still had a trump card that he had not used yet. Otherwise, the Grand Alliance would be completely annihilated this time. No one would survive. After Tian Boguang unleashed his full power, he chose to attack Qin Hao immediately, not giving the other party any chance to react. Qin Hao was also in a daze. He had only seen such a phenomenon of rising several levels in a row before. He had never seen anyone do it so ridiculously. Tian Buowang was even more ridiculous than Qin Hao in the past. He had directly jumped to the level of a Venerate powerhouse. A Yuan Venerate and a Yuan Monarch were two completely different concepts. There was a huge difference in the strength of their Yuan Qi. Even though Qin Hao had the power of 2 souls, his killing power was only comparable to a level 1 Yuan Venerate. There was still a big gap between him and a true Yuan Venerate. However, Tian Buowang was a true level 2 Yuan Venerate. With a flash of his afterimage, he appeared in front of Qin Hao as if he had teleported. The corner of his mouth under the skull revealed a ferocious smile, and he used the spiked gloves on his hand to punch Qin Hao in the stomach. This punch did not contain any Yuan Qi or fancy moves. It was completely caused by brute force. However, it was extremely heavy. After Qin Hao was punched in the stomach, his back arched and he spat out a mouthful of blood. A fist-shaped hole also appeared in the clothes on his back. It wasn't that he did not want to dodge, but that he simply could not. After becoming a Yuan Venerate, Tian Buowang's speed and power had been enhanced dozens of times. Even though he had not learned how to tear space, he could already control short-distance teleportation with ease. Qin Hao's Aqua Wind Step could not be faster than teleportation. This was no longer a gap that could be made up for by cultivation technique. Chapter 752. Haha! Tian Buowang also laughed wildly without any restraint. Red Lotus spinning sky / Qin Hao let out a thunderous roar. Enduring the pain of his internal organs being crushed, he did not hesitate to use his ultimate move. His body retreated quickly and flames filled his body. He raised his palms above his head and condensed a fireball. Then he swung his arms down heavily. Swoosh! The fireball flew onto Tian Buowang's body, and the whole process was extremely fast. At this moment, the fireball exploded and caused the first part of the explosion. Then it turned into a huge fire blade and wrapped around Tian Buowang's body and slashed wildly. In the past, this move was enough to kill someone who was 4 levels higher than Qin Hao. But when it landed on Tian Buowang's black magic martial armor, it only produced a large amount of sparks. After a series of ding, ding, dang, dang sounds, the power of the fire blade was exhausted and disappeared. Tian Buowang was not hurt at all. There was not even a scratch on the magic martial armor. Qin Hao was dumbfounded at the sight. Is this your ultimate move? Let me be honest, it's really weak. It's nice to look at, but useless. Tian Buowang smiled and swept his hand across the magic martial armor. His eyes suddenly flashed, and his body disappeared into thin air and appeared in front of Qin Hao. Then, the spiked gloves smashed heavily on Qin Hao's head and made a bang sound. This punch made Qin Hao's head dizzy, and he saw stars. The skin on his forehead was scraped off on the spot. Blood instantly stained his face and blurred his vision. His body turned into a straight line and fell from the sky. But Tian Buowang could not stop. He found pleasure and became extremely excited. Taking this opportunity, he flashed and chased after Qin Hao. He threw hundreds of punches at him. Every punch was heavy and hard to block. The fist force shook the void and made it wail. This time, he used the power of 2 souls, and his fist spat out evil black flames. These flames blasted onto Qin Hao's body and were sent flying. They turned into beams of fire and scattered in all directions, covering the entire stone forest square. It was a spectacular sight, like a meteor shower falling from the sky. At this moment, Yi Shuihan and the others hurriedly ran out of the stone forest plaza. Unfortunately, it was hit by the falling rain of black fire. Actually, the first person to be hit was Yi Shuihan. When a bunch of black flames landed beside him, there was a loud explosion. Accompanied by the explosion of the golden jade slab under his feet, Yi Shuifan's body slanted, and he spat out a mouthful of blood as his body was thrown back. At this moment, the sacred square of the Medicine Valley was beyond recognition. It was riddled with holes, and the sound of explosions could be heard everywhere. It had turned into a battlefield filled with smoke. Plumes of smoke and dust soared into the sky, and the ground caved in. Under Tian Boguang's fist, Qin Hao, who was in the air, was beaten like a falling leaf in the wind and rain. Blood spurted out one mouthful after another as Tian Boguang pressed him down fiercely. Finally, with a loud bang, Qin Hao was drowned in dust and smoke. A gust of wind blew past and blew away the smoke and dust, revealing the sorrowful stone forest plaza. At this moment, it was like a broken mirror. It was too horrible to look at. The gold and jade slab within a radius of a few thousand meters had been turned into worthless dust by Tian Boguang's attack. Only the rainbow light ball that contained the Bestiarch's inheritance was intact. It was still floating in the air holily. Furthermore, the spring water, the pond, and the golden fruit in the pond that washed the Bestiarch's inheritance were all intact and full of vitality. But the others were not so lucky. At this moment, there was only one person left standing in the square. Yi Shuihan. Yi Shuihan was covered in wounds. His luxurious golden robe was tattered and full of holes. Fresh blood was flowing from his face continuously. He clenched his teeth with all his might and stretched out his arms. There were countless thumb-sized bloody holes in his chest. As blood flowed out, black smoke rose from the bloody holes. He persevered and refused to fall because Xiaogua, Nalan Li, Naransu, Han Man, and Yi Wuhan were lying on his back. At this moment, everyone's faces were black as they were shaken by the aftershocks. Just now, Yi Shuihan had transformed into his water god body and formed a watertight barrier above his head to block the fiery rain that fell from the sky for everyone. However, in just one exchange, his barrier was shattered. His body was also full of holes, and his water god body dissipated on the spot. Hang in there. Yi Shuihan turned his head with difficulty. Just as he finished speaking, he fell to the ground. Brother Han. Xiaogua's tears fell like rain. He struggled to get up and caught Yi Shuihan in time. Yi Shuihan forced a smile. He had endured so much of Tian Boguang's fiery rain and was so weak that he could not say anything. However, he used a smile to tell Tian Boguang, "I'm fine. I won't die so easily." Xiaogua felt even worse when he heard this. However, he did not have time to feel sad. A blood-curdling scream was heard in the distance. The scream was extremely familiar. It was Qin Hao. Shi Xiaogua couldn't help but look forward. She was stunned at a glance. His invincible big brother was being trampled under Tian Boguang's foot. Tian Boguang was using his iron boot to crush Qin Hao's abdomen. Qin Hao's abdomen had already been injured. After being hit by the spiked gloves, he was being crushed so fiercely that blood gushed out uncontrollably and dyed his white robes red. Tian Boguang had also landed a few hundred punches on him. The power of each punch was enough to kill a second-level Yuan Venerate. Yi Shuihan had only been hit by the sparks falling from the sky and had already lost his ability to fight. Qin Hao had suffered a few hundred punches head-on, so his injuries were very serious. This immense pain made Qin Hao scream for the first time since his rebirth. He really could not bear it. Ha ha ha! Scream all you want. No one will come to save you even if you scream yourself hoarse. I have to say that your skin is really thick. You are actually still alive after suffering 660 punches from me. Qin Hao. Oh, Qin Hao, you have impressed me again. Tian Boguang clenched his teeth and said viciously. His tone was full of hatred. Furthermore, he increased the force of his foot pressing down on Qin Hao's abdomen. This made Qin Hao feel even more pain. Bastard, how dare you touch my big brother? I will fight it out with you. Xiaogua's eyes turned red in an instant. He threw Yi Shuihan aside and rushed forward without any regard for his life. He absorbed his soul into his body and transformed into a 6-meter-tall beast. The ground shook as he ran. Don't come over. You are not his match. Qin Hao shouted anxiously, but it was too late. Get lost. You are not qualified to jump around in front of me. Tian Boguang waved his hand indifferently. Instead, it swept out an incomparably powerful black flame. The flames lifted Sayogwa, who had transformed into a 6-meter-tall beast, off the ground. He flew 100 feet into the air before crashing down heavily. After landing, the ox demon physique collapsed. Sayogwa lay on the ground, twitching violently. He hugged his stomach with both hands and was in so much pain that his face was distorted. The ox demon physique, with limitless potential, was actually unable to withstand a casual wave of Tian Boguang's hand. "Bastard!" Sayogwa roared furiously. He struggled a little and actually tried to climb to his feet. "Trash! Qin Hao is qualified to die by my hands, but you're not even qualified to die by my hands." Tian Boguang was dismissive of this. But suddenly, another figure charged over. It was extremely ghostly. It was Xing Er. She had not received Yi Shuhen's protection earlier. Even so, she was not injured at all. In fact, after receiving Yao Lao's training, not only had Xing Er's cultivation improved greatly, but she had also become dozens of times more agile than an ordinary person. She had successfully dodged the fiery rain earlier. At the moment, she was holding 2 thorns in her hands and charging over recklessly. Her speed was extraordinarily fast and broke the limit of Xing Er's speed. Her speed was even comparable to Qin Hao's waterwind step. In the blink of an eye, she was already 10 meters away from Tian Boguang. Unfortunately, Tian Boguang waved his hand casually again. A gust of wind swept Xing Er up and sent her flying. The precious Monarch weapon that Hai Laosi had bought in her hand shattered instantly. Boom! Xing Er fell to the ground and did not get up. Qin Hao clenched his teeth and looked in the direction where Xing Er had fallen. His eyes were bloodshot. He knew very well how strong Tian Boguang was while wearing the demonic martial armor. In fact, he had already surpassed a 2nd-level Yuan Venerate and reached the strength of a 3rd-level Yuan Venerate. Even Sayogwa's ox demon physique could not withstand it. Xing Er's body was weak, so this blow could very well take her life. Roar! At that moment, a bestial roar was heard, accompanied by a gust of wind. It was a dog spirit. The dog spirit was holding Huang Tianba, who was foaming at the mouth, in its mouth and throwing Huang Tianba away like trash. It let out a lion-like roar and charged at Tian Boguang. These flies are really annoying. Even a dog is so protective of you. Watch me slay it. Tian Boguang finally lost his patience. He grabbed the void and a pitch-black flaming blade condensed in his hand. A 100-meter-long blade light burst forth and slashed at the dog spirit. However, the dog spirit did not stop flying. Its scarred face was resolute. It knew that it would die, but it still flew in the direction of Qin Hao. Boom! This blade strike was very fast and did not give Qin Hao a chance to stop it. It landed on the dog spirit's head. As blood splattered, the dog spirit was pressed to the ground by the blade and landed beside Xing. A 1,000-meter-long gully was torn in the ground. The dog spirit was pressed into the deep gully, but its life aura was still faintly emitted from the gully. It was not cut in half. It's not dead? What a tough life. Tian Boguang's lips twitched in dissatisfaction, and he dispersed the flaming blade in his hand. The power of this blade strike was much stronger than when it sent Sayogwa and Xing Er flying. Logically speaking, 100 dog spirits should have been torn to shreds. However, when the blade struck, Tian Boguang sensed that there seemed to be a strange force that blocked the blade strike. He looked around and discovered that there was no one else apart from a pile of Grand Aura Alliance trash on the ground. Was it my imagination? Forget it, I don't care. Tian Boguang shook his head. His mind was not on the dog spirit. He only wanted to trample on Qin Hao. He only had eyes for Qin Hao. At that moment, in the dark, there were 6 pairs of eyes and 3 beast silhouettes hidden in the corner of a mountain far away. They stared at the dilapidated stone forest square without blinking. They were a 300-meter-long giant eagle and a 100-meter-tall panther king. Of course, there was also an old mutated beast that looked 90% similar to the dog spirit. At that moment, the giant eagle and the panther king were acting like cowards in front of the old mutated beast. Beast Emperor, why didn't you help that young man turn the situation around? Instead, you saved the extremely handsome Dog King? At that moment, the Panther King spoke. The giant eagle nodded. It did not understand either. As long as the Beast Emperor shook his dog fur slightly, it would be enough to turn all the humans in pitch-black demonic armor who were asking for a beating into ashes. Chapter 753. The Panther King couldn't help but stare. You still have some hidden power that you haven't used. Even a lion had to use all its strength to hunt a rabbit. Even the demonic beasts understood such a shallow logic. Qin Hao was about to be beaten to death, but he still hadn't used his trump card. The Panther King couldn't understand. Humans had too many ways of doing things that were extremely strange to the demonic beasts. If it were them, they would definitely use all their strength and try to kill the other party in one blow. The Beast Arch raised his white eyebrows. He only guessed that Qin Hao had some trump cards that would allow him to win by surprise and counterattack. In fact, he wasn't absolutely sure about this. If he helped Qin Hao now, and if Qin Hao really had the ability to counterattack, even if he won, he would be grateful to the Beast Arch, but he wouldn't be willing to let the dog spirit stay. Hence, he had to continue waiting for the best opportunity to show himself. Stone Forest Plaza. Tian Boguang's feet kept stomping on Qin Hao's injured abdomen. His flesh was badly mangled and blood splattered everywhere. Tian Boguang's expression was extremely satisfied, and he wanted to trample on Qin Hao. Qin Hao watched as Xiaogua, Xing and the dog spirit fell to the ground because of him. Although he was extremely angry, he didn't lose his rationality. On the contrary, he was strangely quiet at this moment. He clenched his teeth and didn't cry out in pain. Cry out, and beg me for mercy. Beg me to spare your worthless life. Damn it, if I don't make a sound, it really makes me unhappy. Tian Boguang was still stomping on Qin Hao's abdomen, and he was extremely angry. Haha, is this all you can do? Are you sure you're using all your strength now? Qin Hao endured the pain and asked Tian Boguang. Of course. Torturing you is as easy as torturing an ant. Are you deeply shocked? Hurry up and beg me for mercy. Admit that you're trash and don't deserve Wan Qin. You're only fit to tremble at my feet now. Tian Boguang raised his head proudly and spoke in a condescending tone. Shocked? A little. It was far from shocking. Because in reality, even if you use all your strength, you still won't be able to kill me. Qin Hao sneered. Along with this, spots of watery light flickered at the injured area. The appearance of the watery light instantly alleviated the pain. You still dare to be stubborn? Right now, you're no match for me. What qualifications do you have to brag in front of me? I'll give you one last chance to beg me for mercy. Shout it out and let the whole world know. If you don't, I'll stomp you into a pile of mud. Tian Boguang issued an ultimatum. Apparently, he was impatient with Qin Hao's stubbornness. You are not worthy, Qin Hao said disdainfully. Well, then I'll give you a kick. Let's see what ability you have to brag about. Then I'll cut off your head and give it to Wan Qin as a wedding gift. Die, Qin Hao. Tian Boguang couldn't bear it any longer. He raised his iron-booted right foot high and stomped down fiercely. With a buzzing sound, a fierce black flame appeared under his foot. In his opinion, this kick would end Qin Hao's life and wash away the humiliation he brought to him in the Rising Star competition. Wan Qin, you finally belong to me, ha. As his laughter fell, Tian Boguang's iron hooves bombarded Qin Hao's chest as he wished. However, he didn't step on him like he had expected. Instead, his feet were held by Qin Hao's hands. How could this be? Tian Boguang was shocked. Qin Hao was half dead, but he still had the strength to stop him. This force was surprisingly huge. It was like being clamped by a tiger, so that his feet couldn't move half a step. He even heard a creaking sound from the iron boots. Tian Boguang, if this is really your full strength, I have to tell you another bad news. I'm disappointed again because, in fact, I haven't used all my strength yet. Qin Hao finally smiled and was completely relieved. His words made Tian Boguang turn pale with fright. He absolutely didn't believe Qin Hao. But in the next second, Qin Hao proved himself with action. He clenched his fists angrily. Pong! The iron boots on Tian Buowang's right foot were broken, and Tian Buowang was directly sent flying. At this moment, Qin Hao's body, which had fallen to the ground, was suspended in the air again. A layer of dazzling water covered his whole body, making him look incomparably sacred. And it was visible to the naked eye that under the nourishment of the water, Qin Hao's injuries were quickly healing, including the skin on his forehead that had been peeled off. The new skin and flesh looked whiter and more tender than a baby. How is this possible? Tian Buowang's iron boots were broken, revealing his bare right foot. His foot was dripping with blood, and his 5 toes were twisted into a ball. They were deformed by Qin Hao's attack just now, but he didn't have time to feel the pain. He was deeply shocked by the scene in front of him. Under the nourishment of a large mass of soft water, Qin Hao's injuries were all miraculously healed. Tian Buowang wondered if his eyes were blind. Even if Qin Hao ate an elixir, it was impossible for him to recover so quickly. If Xianyuan Wuhuang was still alive at this moment, he would definitely jump up in shock. The mysterious water that covered Qin Hao's body was one of the 9 elements of the 9 heavens God's punishment array. It was known as the resurrection of the dead, the regeneration of flesh and bones. Tranquil water. I have the body of a demigod. My body is formed by 10,000 spirits. I rely on absorbing the spiritual energy of all things, and my recovery ability is fast. Then let me tell you a mysterious secret. In fact, I have a 3rd soul. It is my 3rd soul that can instantly restore my health and restore me to the best state for battle. So I said, you can't kill me. Even if my body is destroyed, as long as my spirit doesn't die, I can reform a new body. Qin Hao smiled gently. As long as he didn't meet a god-level expert with the ability to create heaven and earth, Qin Hao was almost immortal in the mortal world. At this moment, his smile fell into Tian Buowang's eyes. It was more terrifying than a demon's. He wouldn't die even if his body was destroyed. Was Qin Hao still human? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Why don't you let me destroy you with one punch and prove your awesome self-recovery ability? Tian Buowang screamed like a madman. In response, Qin Hao shook his head. His expression said, I don't want to. No matter how extraordinary the tranquil water's ability was, he wasn't so perverted that he would be dismembered by 5 horses and then reform a new body. Reforming a new body required a high price. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Qin Hao didn't want to pay that price. At this moment, he gently swung his arm and shot out 7 streams of water. They were like 7 rays of light that entered the bodies of Xiaogua, Xing'er, Yishuan, the dog spirit, and Nalan Li. Almost in a second, the people who were on the verge of death regained their consciousness and stood up energetically. Just like Qin Hao, all the injuries on their bodies disappeared. After being nourished by the tranquil water, Xiaogua realized that the impurities in his body had been expelled. His physical strength was stronger than before. When he clenched his fist, he felt like he could tear an ancient mammoth apart. Nalan Li, Xing'er, and Narance's skin had become better. Their faces were rosy, and their auras had improved. The tranquil water was more effective than any beauty pill in the world. F***, I broke through. At this moment, Yi Shuhan's excited roar was heard. Accompanied by a strong surge of crimson essence energy, his cultivation broke through the limit of a level 6 Yuan Monarch and reached level 7. He had the water god body, so his ability to absorb the tranquil water was naturally much stronger than Xiaogua and the rest. F***. Chapter 754. Boss, is the water energy that you injected into my body really your 3rd source spirit? Where did it come from? Not only did it raise my cultivation level, but my water god's body also seemed to have been sublimated. Yishuan could clearly feel that his water god's body had become purer after fusing with the nether tranquil water. He was very excited at this moment. Moreover, I feel that my strength has become stronger. Xiaogua said, Everyone look at my skin. Isn't it whiter and more tender? It's full of elasticity, and I feel much more relaxed. Nalanli said shyly, feeling very embarrassed. Also feel that I've become younger. It's as if I've returned to the time when I was a 15-year-old girl. Naransu's cheeks flushed red. She indeed looked more youthful than before. Her whole body was exuding vitality. Not only that, I found that my old illness has also completely recovered. Qin Hao, I really have to thank you. Yi Wuhan's eyes were filled with tears. He was so moved that he wanted to cry. Because he had damaged his meridians. Usually this kind of pain was not obvious, and he looked no different from a normal person. But every time he broke through, it would cause unbearable pain. It was as if his meridians were being stripped from his body. But from now on, Yi Wuhan would no longer have to suffer this kind of torture that was worse than death. But I found that I haven't changed at all. At this time, Han Man stood up and said with a silly face, "Senior brother Han Man, it seems that your face has become darker. It's a bit like Li Xuanfeng's Hei Kuei from the outer court." Suddenly, Nalanli discovered that Han Man was different from the rest. She pointed at his face and said, "Not only did Han Man's face become darker, even his skin and flesh became darker. He looked more sturdy. Could it be?" Han Man's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly had an idea and begged Yi Wuhan, "Senior brother Wuhan, quickly, punch me." While speaking, he impatiently pulled Yi Wuhan's fist and punched his face. "Junior brother, what are you doing?" Yi Wuhan quickly broke free and refused. "Aya, I'm letting you hit me. Do you still treat me as a brother? Don't be so wishy-washy. Quickly punch me." Pong. Yi Wuhan really couldn't stand Han Man's masochistic request, so he used half of his strength and punched Han Man's face. Yi Wuhan was a beginner level 6 Yuan Monarch. His innate speed was 6 times faster than others. Even if he only used half of his strength, the power was not to be underestimated. If it was the Han Man of the past, he definitely wouldn't be able to take it and would lie on the ground groaning for half a day. But a miracle happened. Yimo's punch made Han Man stagger back a few steps. His head was buzzing, and 2 lines of blood were flowing out his nostrils. But in reality, the Koreans did not suffer any serious injuries. My defense seems to have increased by 3 or 4 times. Oh my God! Han Man let out a bluff. Even he himself felt that it was inconceivable to the extreme. Along with the nosebleed, he also laughed foolishly. He laughed very happily. At this moment, almost everyone looked at Qin Hao, who was floating in the air with strange looks in their eyes. It was as if they were looking at a god. Qin Hao casually waved his hand and changed or enhanced everyone's physique. His methods were like that of a real god descending to the mortal world. I can't believe that you have the ability to change other people's physiques. Damn it, you bunch of ants, don't be complacent. Even if your cultivation base has increased, your defense has increased, and your skin has become more elastic and tender. But so what? In front of me, Tian Buowang, you are still a bunch of trash. I can kill all of you with one punch. In this medicine valley, the heavens, the earth, and the invincible, iron-blooded king who controls your fates. If I want you dead at midnight, you won't live to see tomorrow. Let's start with Qin Hao. Prepare to die. Tian Buowang also couldn't accept reality. Qin Hao had actually obtained such an awesome third essence soul. With a strong feeling of jealousy, he rolled up a monstrous black aura. His body flashed again and appeared in front of Qin Hao out of thin air. Then, he threw a heavy punch at Qin Hao's abdomen. Pong! This punch landed, but the scene of him seriously injuring Qin Hao didn't repeat itself. Instead, it was tightly grabbed by a powerful big hand. You idiot. I've said it before. I've only used half of my cultivation. In fact, I haven't fully activated my dragon soul physique. Because once it's fully activated, even I don't know what kind of terrifying consequences it will cause. Congratulations, Tian Buowang. Come and see. Let's see my peak state. Dragon strength. Accompanied by Qin Hao's loud roar. The sound waves from the roar were like a big thunderbolt exploding into Tian Buowang's ears. He was horrified to see There were countless dense golden dragon scales rapidly climbing up Qin Hao's body, covering his arms, fists, chest, thighs, and even spreading to half of his face. The dense dragon scales were like a sacred and unbreakable golden armor. It formed a sharp contrast with Tian Boguang's black devil martial armor. Tian Boguang looked down and found that the big hand that was holding his fist was actually the claw of a giant dragon. It was very ferocious. Chapter 755. You, Tian Boguang said in a trembling voice. Pung. What responded was Qin Hao's golden fist. This fist smashed into Tian Boguang's forehead, shattering his skull-like hat into pieces. With a swishing sound, half of it fell off. From this, it could be seen how terrifying Qin Hao's strength was. Is this the ultimate state of the dragon's strength? Too strong. Qin Hao was also deeply shocked. He floated in the air in disbelief, looking at his right hand that had turned into a dragon claw. In the next second, the corners of his mouth rose. His body flashed out of thin air and disappeared. When he appeared again, he was already in front of Tian Boguang. Then a left hook, a right hook, an upper hook, a lower hook, a diagonal hook, a black tiger steals the heart, a monkey plucks the peach. A series of large fists bombarded Tian Boguang's face, causing him to scream miserably. His body was on the verge of collapse, and the devil martial armor was full of cracks. The scene was like when Tian Boguang beat up Qin Hao at the beginning. But this time, the two sides exchanged positions. It was Tian Boguang who was beaten up. Qin Hao also threw out 666 punches in one breath, returning all these punches. Scream, since you have used all your cards. Then even if you scream until your throat is broken, no one will come to save you. Failure is still a fate you cannot escape. Qin Hao's fist was like a gust of wind, his aura shaking the world. The violent scene made Xiaogua and the others below dumbstruck. Damn it, I will not lose, definitely not. There was a tearing pain in his body. While Tian Boguang was being beaten, he also quickly counterattacked. As if he didn't care about his life, he began to exchange blows with Qin Hao. Moreover, his fists hit the flesh, hitting Qin Hao's dragon scales. Gradually, the dragon scales on Qin Hao's body began to shatter and fall off. In fact, the difference in strength between the two sides was not that big. Tian Boguang was even slightly stronger. But Qin Hao had a third source spirit, so every time he was injured, there would be a flash of light from the injured area, and the broken dragon scales would grow back. It was as if there were two people fighting with Tian Boguang at this moment. Behind Qin Hao, there was also a skilled healer who was constantly healing him, giving him an endless supply of power. Tian Boguang, on the other hand, was in a miserable state. More and more wounds appeared on his body, and the demonic martial armor was on the verge of collapsing. He did not have the ability to heal himself, and as time passed, he became weaker and weaker. Finally, the demonic martial armor on his body began to faintly appear, as if it was about to disappear. This meant that Tian Boguang's second source spirit time had come to an end. However, Qin Hao was still healing himself. The heavenly dragon's strength and the tranquil nether water complemented each other, and he had an inexhaustible supply of vitality. Even if he had to fight with 500 hooligans for 3 days and 3 nights, it wouldn't be a problem. Tian Boguang couldn't even hold on for a moment. Fine. You forced me to do this. Before the demonic, martial, arrogant armor disappears, take my killing blow. Divine Rebirth Bowl. Suppress. Tian Boguang couldn't hold on any longer, and finally took out his ultimate killing weapon. This was an ultimate move, but it wasn't an awesome cultivation technique. It was a weapon. To be precise, it was the rice bowl used by the monks in the temple, and it was purple-gold in color. While speaking, Tian Boguang took out the golden rebirth bowl and threw it into the air. The golden bowl instantly expanded to the size of an acre. Not only did it cover Qin Hao, but it also covered Xiaogua and the others below. Once you're hit by my divine rebirth bowl, within 3 breaths, you'll turn into pus and blood peeling off your flesh. At that time, Don't even talk about reconstructing your body and self-healing ability. Even if a deity came, he wouldn't be able to help. Qin Hao, you're about to die. Huh. Tian Boguang laughed crazily, drawing out all the strength in his body. His hands were in front of him, and he controlled the rice bowl to land on Qin Hao's head. Revered weapon? Qin Hao raised his head and was shocked. What he saw was the golden bowl getting closer and closer. From far away, he could already feel the pressure coming from above, as well as the indescribable, terrifying power contained in the golden bowl. This was a genuine, venerable artifact. It was definitely rare in the continent. Even a primitive emperor might not have a venerable artifact. After all, 8th-grade blacksmiths on the continent were extremely rare. But Tian Boguang had a revered weapon. I'll hold it up. Qin Hao also risked his life. He spread out a pair of incomparably huge primitive wings, raised his arms high, and lifted the falling golden bowl. He thought that he had discovered that under the cover of the golden bowl, Xiaogua and the others on the ground had been scared stiff by the power of the revered weapon. Once covered, it would definitely be like what Tian Boguang said. Within 3 breaths, everyone would turn into pus and blood. Even Qin Hao's tranquil water couldn't save people who had turned into pus and blood. So he had to hold it up like a man. Boom! A dull, smashing sound exploded from high up in the sky. It was mixed with Qin Hao's scream. The moment his hands came into contact with the golden bowl, the dragon scales on Qin Hao's arms cracked and turned into dregs. His whole body was dyed red with blood again, and the pair of incomparably huge primitive wings also disappeared. The difference in strength was too great, and he couldn't resist the speed of the golden bowl at all. Far away. Chapter 756. We still have to wait. The Panther King was forced to squat on the ground. The golden bowl was a grade 8 honorable weapon. Even the Panther King and the eagle would die if they were caught in it, let alone Qin Hao. Apart from the Beast Emperor, no one else could withstand it. Qin Hao was just a human. There was no way he could withstand it. However, the Beast Emperor looked calm. He was still waiting for the best opportunity to show his face. It was obvious that he would not help him easily. The Panther King was anxious. He felt that Qin Hao was going to die. In fact, the Beast Emperor was also gambling. Qin Hao's performance had piqued his interest. He wanted to see the limits of his potential. If he could not defeat the Golden Bowl in the end, the Beast Emperor was confident that he could help Qin Hao resolve the crisis at the moment of life and death. However, Qin Hao did not let the Beast Emperor down. When he realized that his physical body could not withstand the Golden Bowl, he immediately took out the Great Void Holy Sword and stabbed it with both hands. The tip of the sword shone brightly as he tried to pierce through the Golden Bowl. Clang! There was a loud noise, followed by a large number of sparks from the Golden Bowl. After this sword, Qin Hao's arm was in great pain. The web between his thumb and forefinger was torn, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Not only was the Golden Bowl not damaged, but the Great Void Holy Sword also showed signs of cracking. Ha ha, wonderful, wonderful. Even your sword is cracked. Let's see what other Dharma treasures you have. Take them all out. Qin Hao, under my invincible Golden Bowl, you have run out of tricks. Tian Boguang laughed maniacally. The scene of Qin Hao's final struggle was very pleasing to the eye. It's over. The Great Void Holy Cauldron has only evolved to the level of an imperial weapon. It can't even touch Tian Boguang's honorable weapon. Amidst the astonishment, the falling golden bowl hit Qin Hao mercilessly again. Suddenly, a powerful force was transmitted into Qin Hao's chest. This time, the dragon scales all over Qin Hao's body were shattered. The ultimate form of the strength of the dragon was completely disintegrated. He could no longer hold the Taishu holy sword and dropped it. Moreover, the golden alms bowl pressed down on Qin Hao all the way to Chief Xiaogua and the others below. Big brother, chief, boss, brother Qin Hao. Everyone felt both heartache and nervousness. They hated themselves for being unable to help Qin Hao. They could only watch as Qin Hao fought against Tian Boguang's invincible golden alms bowl alone. As the golden alms bowl continued to fall, a huge shadow seemed to descend, making everyone feel extremely helpless. Even at this moment, Yi Wuhin and Han Man closed their eyes and chose to give up resisting. Damn it, where did Tian Boguang get such a high-grade venerable weapon? Is there really no way to reverse the situation? Qin Hao was pressed down by the strong wind, but he did not lose his will to fight. His thoughts were running at lightning speed. Relying on the experiences of his previous life, he tried to find a way to break through the golden alms bowl. Dan Xian was about to be saved. Soon, he would be able to bring Wan Qin home from Star Moon Academy. Qin Hao had yet to reunite with Xiao Han and gain Emperor Zhao's approval. How could he fall down here? But no matter how rich my experience and fighting experience is, it pales in front of absolute power. I'm really willing. Han Lingxian, Zhan Wu, I haven't reached you yet. Damn it, Qin Hao really had no other way and let out an unwilling roar. The roar filled with sadness fell into Tian Boguang's ears, which made him laugh crazily. He had finally gotten his revenge. He had finally crushed Qin Hao under his feet. Right, I still have it. How could I forget about it? Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind. Qin Hao's face was full of joy. The next second, enduring the tearing pain in his body, he summoned the Red Lotus Fire Spirit again. His whole body turned into a huge cluster of fire and quickly escaped from the Golden Alms Bowl's attack. In the blink of an eye, the distance between the two sides was 2,000 feet. Qin Hao was suspended 20 meters above the ground. Xiaogua and the others were below him. There was no way for him to retreat. However, he calmed down abnormally. He took 2 deep breaths and raised his head to look at the terrifying Golden Alms Bowl that could not be shaken. Boss, what's wrong with you? Yi Shuihan was very confused. Could it be that even Qin Hao had given up resisting? Big brother, you can still live. Hurry up and leave. Only you are strong enough to not be affected by the Golden Alms Bowl. Don't worry about us. Xiaogua said goodbye with tears in his eyes. But if there's an afterlife, I still want to be your brother. I'm very proud to have a big brother like you. Don't say stupid things, Brad. Since you are so proud, then continue to be proud. Qin Hao turned around and smiled at Xiaogua. He also smiled at the others. It was a blessing to have such a group of cute brothers and sisters from the Grand Aura Alliance to accompany him. Immediately, a majestic aura appeared on Qin Hao's body. It was as if he was an unreachable emperor. Moreover, his body was accompanied by mysterious white energy. Qin Hao went to his space ring and took out an arrow. It was an arrow with a scarlet arrowhead. This arrow was taken from Mu Yue's body 2 months ago in the Imperial Mausoleum's underground cavern. It was Qin Hao's sunset divine arrow. It was what Qin Hao relied on to look down on the world in his previous life. It has been too long. Old friend, today is the day for you to shine again. Even if you don't have the sunset bow, I believe that you will not disappoint me. The Great Void Cauldron had not recovered to its original strength as a divine weapon. However, this sunset arrow was a genuine semi-god weapon. Tian Boguang's honorable weapon, the Golden Alms Bowl, was very arrogant. Let's try this arrow. Chapter 757. Qin Hao struck down with his palm and unleashed the Red Lotus Fire. The Red Lotus Fire stretched between heaven and earth, and there was no end to it. It was like a red line that connected heaven and earth. He wanted to use heaven and earth as the bow and the red lotus as the string. The sunset cultivation technique flowed through his entire body. His meridians surged with boundless energy and gathered at his fingers. At this moment, he placed the sunset arrow on the red lotus line and retreated with all his might. Suddenly, the red lotus line that connected heaven and earth was pulled more and more until it formed the shape of a full moon. It was as if heaven and earth had shortened the distance between heaven and earth. It was obvious how terrifying this energy was. Go! Sunset arrow! Qin Hao shouted and released his fingers. Swoosh! The sunset arrow was like a disjointed rocket as it flew toward the Golden Alms Bowl. The tip of the arrow shone brightly, and the vital energy caused heaven and earth to tremble. Oh my God! The beast, the arch, who had turned into an old man, was stunned. His body trembled. He had never seen such an earth-shattering archery technique. Perhaps Qin Hao's cultivation level was still very weak, but his archery aura was extremely arrogant. His attack was like a rainbow, sacred and inviolable. It was as if he could shoot through even a god in front of him. There was no way to stop him. What was even more terrifying was that arrow. The beast, the arch, could feel the fear in his soul from the arrow. He believed that he would be injured if he were to take this attack. This was rather frightening. One had to know that Qin Hao was only a king-tier martial artist. Between the words, the sunset arrow pierced into the golden alms bowl with a blinding light. At this moment, time seemed to have stopped. Everyone saw a firework explode in the sky. After a long time, boom, 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 the deafening sound waves spread over. The destructive shock waves spread, causing the space to collapse and the ground to sink. The shock waves swept across the ground. Whether it was the hills or the ancient trees, everything was flattened. Not even a blade of grass grew. After this arrow, the golden alms bowl was pierced through without any resistance. A huge hole appeared in the middle. Like a deflated balloon, the golden alms bowl turned into a palm-sized piece of metal and fell sadly. However, the sunset arrow did not stop there. After piercing through the golden alms bowl, it pierced through Tian Boguang's stomach. Miserable cries mixed with the rain of blood could be heard. The extremely sturdy demon martial armor was pierced through like a piece of paper. Tian Boguang, who was feeling pleased with himself, also fell head first. Together with the incomparably awesome divine bowl, he fell into the smoke and dust of the plaza. After a long time, Qin Hao was the first to get up from the dust with a dusty face. He shook off the dust on his long hair. His head was still buzzing from the shock. He struggled for a while before he became sober. Following that, Xiaogua, Yi Shuihan, and the others climbed out one after another. Because he was hiding behind Qin Hao, he was not affected by the setting sun heart sutra and was only buried in the ground. Come back. Qin Hao raised his hand. The setting sun arrow that had originally flown into the sky and disappeared. Like an obedient child, it flashed through the air and instantly returned to his hand, disappearing into the spatial ring. Qin Hao smiled, looking at Tian Boguang, who was lying on the ground, unable to move, covered in wounds, and whose demon martial arrogant armor had disappeared. He slowly walked over. What magical treasures do you have right now? Why don't you take them all out? Qin Hao also stepped on the wound on Tian Boguang's abdomen with his foot. With the erosion of the setting sun heart sutra, the wound was constantly expanding and worsening. What an awesome arrow. I actually lost again. Damn it. Tian Boguang screamed at the top of his lungs. His expression was extremely indignant. After returning from a northern borderline, his strength had greatly increased. He had replaced the position of the top person in the cabinet, Yi Shuifeng. At that moment, his confidence had soared. He thought that in this battle of the Medicine Valley, he would be able to kill Qin Hao effortlessly. But he never expected that. He, who had two souls, would lose. He, who was wearing the demon martial arrogant armor, would lose. Even if he revealed his ultimate trump card, he would still lose. Shenwan Qin. He would never be able to marry her in this lifetime. The Beast Emperor's inheritance was right in front of him, but he could not get it. Even his invincible golden bowl was destroyed by Qin Hao's arrow. You son of a B******. I almost died in your hands several times. I'll kick you to death, you bastard. Han Man was the first to rush up and kick Tian Boguang with righteous indignation. Surviving a disaster made everyone's heart palpitate. Tian Boguang had many trump cards and was extremely powerful. He was extremely dangerous. Even Qin Hao admitted this. If he had not been lucky enough to obtain the setting sun arrow 2 months ago, he would have died in Tian Boguang's hands this time. Big brother, kill him. If he's dead, we can take Sister Wan Qin back to the Fengli Temple. Xiaogua took out his holy war sword and slashed at Tian Boguang's head. Qin Hao did not stop him. Tian Boguang could not be left alive. You dare. At this time, Tian Buguang fought back with all his might. I've been chosen by the #1 sect of the northern frontier, the Zhanyue Mansion. And don't you want to know why my strength has improved by leaps and bounds? Why I have a second soul, the demon martial armor, and why I have the incomparably awesome matchless golden bowl. These were all given to me by the Great Yin Empire's Zhanyue sect. My father was chosen by the Zhanyue sect 20 years ago and is now the first elder of the Zhanyue sect. The invincible golden bowl is my father's venerable weapon. And to tell you the truth, even the crown prince of the northern Yin Empire, Murong Zijuan, calls me brother. If I lose half a hair, you will die, the Qiang Empire will be destroyed, and the Luo Shui Empire will cease to exist. I, Tian Buguang, am someone you can't afford to offend. You can only let me go unconditionally. Fall ha! Tian Buguang's words immediately stopped Xiaogua's sword from falling an inch, and he hurriedly retreated. Chapter 758. The Great Yin Empire, which was led by the Murong clan, had a status comparable to Luo Shui in Western Liang. It was the absolute overlord. As everyone knew, Western Liang was poor with limited resources and few talents. Even the most powerful country in Luo Shui couldn't even be ranked as a third-rate country among all the empires in the continent. The Great Yin was enough to be ranked as a first-rate country. It was like a gold-level force crushing a bronze-level force. There was no suspense at all. Tian Buguang was sworn brothers with the crown prince of the Great Yin, Murong Zijuan. He was the son of the great elder of the Zhanyue sect. Yi Shuihan wouldn't be able to bear the consequences if Tian Buguang was harmed. The Zhanyue sect was the school where the Great Yin nurtured the children of the royal family. If Tian Buguang was attacked, Luo Shui wouldn't be able to resist. The 10,000 pregnant women who summoned the demon martial arrogant armor were searched for by Crown Prince Zijun. Their birth signs were all Yin, and they were fated to have great fortune. Including the babies in their wombs, they will all be first-rate geniuses with limitless potential. Now, their great fortune has been forcefully taken away and transferred to me. That's why I've been reborn. Now, I will give you a chance to atone for your sins. Obediently hand over the Beast Emperor's inheritance. Furthermore, Qin Hao. Tian Buguang looked at Qin Hao with a mocking gaze and smirked. Disband your weak Grand Aura Alliance and become my slave from the Alliance Master. As long as you become my slave, I will consider letting you off. I won't care about your offense against me and the fact that you destroyed my father's beloved supreme weapon. Also, I want you to wear a red robe and be my best man to witness the marriage between Wan Qin and me. My marriage with Wan Qin will be held 15 days later. At that time, my father will bring a large number of the Zhanyue sect's higher-ups and geniuses to the solemn scene from the northern border and personally host the wedding for me. If something happens to me today, half a month later, Qiangbin will fall and Luo Shui will be destroyed. Ha! Tian Buguang laughed wildly without restraint. With Murong Zijuan as his backer, he would definitely have the qualifications to laugh proudly in Western Liang, dictating the life and death of millions of people, and even the rise and fall of an empire. Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan could only obey. They had no right to resist. This felt really good. Creak. Yi Shuihan secretly clenched his fists, and a line of cold sweat quietly flowed down his forehead. As the only prince of Luo Shui, how could he allow a lowly commoner like Tian Buguang to act presumptuously in front of him and even dare to threaten him? Even though he wanted to cut Tian Buguang into 1,000 pieces at this moment, he couldn't do anything about it. His clenched fists loosened little by little, and he was powerless to the extreme. I really didn't expect that Brother Bo Wang's backer would be so awesome. It's really an eye-opener for me. Yi Shuifeng. While they were talking, Yi Shuifeng unexpectedly crawled out from a mound of dirt. Although his clothes were tattered and his legs seemed to be lame, he was not dead. He looked at Tian Buguang with a burning gaze. His despicable appearance made it seem as if he wanted to crawl into Tian Buguang's crotch. He wanted to move forward, but he didn't dare to. It was very funny. In fact, if he wasn't afraid of Qin Hao's existence, he would have rushed forward and helped Tian Buoguang up from the ground to ride on his head. His behavior immediately caused Yi Shuihan to be disappointed. In any case, Yi Shuifeng had the royal bloodline of the Yi family, and he was also the young master of the royal family's #1 trump card legion. Yet, he was as despicable as a lackey. Who do you think you are? You're just a piece of trash from the Yi family with a lowly surname. How dare you call me Tian Buoguang, brother? Only Murong Zijun is worthy of being my brother. Tian Buoguang was still full of disdain. He sternly reprimanded Yi Shuifeng as if he was lecturing his own grandson. Yes, young Master Tian. Shuifeng was too rude. Yi Shuifeng hurriedly apologized. His posture of bending down and lowering his head showed that he didn't treat himself as a human being at all. Immediately, he pointed at Yi Shuihan and ordered, "Why don't you quickly write the abdication letter in front of young Master Tian and give me the position of prince so that I can lead the Luo Shui Empire and continue to serve young Master Tian?" Yi Shuihan frowned at this. According to the agreement, Tian Buoguang should have lost. What are you looking at? Are you questioning young Master Tian's ability? Forgive me for speaking bluntly, but so what if you ants win? In fact, even if you win, you lose. Even if young Master Tian loses, he will still be the final winner. So, hurry up before I get angry. Wait until I become a prince and become young Master Tian. Once I become young Master Tian, I can still give Yi Shuihan a mouthful of food. At that time, I will expel you from the family, deprive you of your surname, and let you become a stinky beggar. You will live on the streets, begging for food for the rest of your life. Ha, it's so cool. A prince becoming a beggar. A scarlet ray of light passed through the field and pierced Yi Shuifeng's throat, making his words come to an abrupt end. You? How dare you? Damn it. Yi Shuifeng clutched his throat with both hands and used his last breath to look in the direction of the scarlet ray of light. A young man in white stood there. It was Qin Hao. Qin Hao had killed Yi Shuifeng in front of Tian Buoguang, yet he still looked indifferent. Who gave him the courage? Who gave him the courage? Yi Shuifeng wanted to ask, but unfortunately, he didn't have the chance to speak. His throat was pierced by the red lotus golden finger, and the wound quickly expanded. His head tilted and fell from his shoulder, and his body fell to the ground. This scene shocked everyone on the spot. No one can threaten me, and no one can threaten my brother and still be so arrogant. You bitch, you want Shuihan to give up the throne and become a beggar. You are simply courting death. Chapter 759. Boss. Yi Shuihan's throat was a little choked up, and a trace of tears appeared in his slightly drooping eyes. At this time, as a prince, he should have stood up for Qin Hao, but in the end, he was afraid of the great yin of the northern borderline. Instead, Qin Hao stood up for Yi Shuihan and killed Yi Shuifeng with his own hands. This made Yi Shuihan feel very guilty. Everyone present was ashamed when they thought of their cowardly performance just now. When a man stands in the world, he should have lofty aspirations. He should not be swayed by poverty. He should be mighty and unyielding, and he should have a big heart. It's better to die with one's head held high than to be a coward. Even if he is defeated in the end, at least he can prove that he has struggled, worked hard, had an exciting life, loved and hated. His life is free and easy, and he has no regrets. But if he lives a lowly life and is bullied by others, what's the point of living? Will that make him happy? It's better to die. Qin Hao spoke righteously, and his straightened finger slowly moved toward Tian Buoguang's heart. Another scarlet light gathered at his fingertip. Well said, Alliance Master is domineering. In fact, I, Han Man, have the same idea. Kill him, and I will advance and retreat together with Alliance Master. If we fight, I will be the first to charge. Han Man was a commoner and an orphan who was adopted by Qi Yang. At this moment, his blood was boiling. That's right, boss. I was too weak just now. Murong Zijuan is the crown prince, but am I not? Luo Shui's soldiers are humans, and the Great Yan soldiers only have one head. It's not certain who will be the one to cut off whose head. I don't believe that they will dare to come from the northern borderline and go against the whole of western Liang. Go, go, boss, I support you. Yi Shuihan patted his chest. He had regained his dignity as a man from Qin Hao's words. Why should he be afraid of the Morong family? At most, he would fight until the mountains and rivers were shattered, and the flames of war would burn the skies. Big brother, do it. For the sake of Sister Wan Qin's lifelong happiness. You know, from the day we became sworn brothers, my fate has been fixed with yours. We are bound together for good or ill. Sayogwa clenched his fist and roared. His roar not only bolstered his courage, but also boosted the confidence of the others. We're bound together for good or ill. Big brother Qin Hao, kill this bastard. I'll support you. Nalanli was so angry that her little face puffed up as she looked at her sister. Both girls nodded their heads at the same time, as if they had reached a tacit understanding. As long as Great Yin attacked, they would lead Great Wei's generals and soldiers to advance and retreat together with Luo Shui. At this moment, everyone was united against a common enemy. In addition, Qin Hao had always been absolutely domineering. Tian Boguang could not help but admit defeat again. With a trembling face, he said, You, Qin Hao, don't act recklessly. Even if you don't think about yourself, you should think about your family. Don't you think about your parents and grandfather? Long life. Ha ha ha. You bastard. If you dare to touch a finger of mine, I swear you will regret it. Bah! Qin Hao spat a mouthful of saliva on Tian Boguang's face. Qin Hao, I'm a person. No matter how difficult it is, I always rely on my own ability. I'm not like you, hugging other people's thighs and showing off your grandfather Tian Shulin's prestige. I will only fight for the glory of the family, not be a waste that relies on the old. The Qin family is now. It's glorious enough. Unfortunately, it has declined. They can only blame themselves for not being as good as others. It's useless to say more. With this finger of mine, I will really touch you. Go to hell. As Qin Hao spoke, the Yuan Qi in his meridians moved. Swoosh! A wisp of fire flew out from his fingertip, heading straight for Tian Boguang's heart. Tian Boguang was so frightened that his facial features were distorted. He really could not believe that Qin Hao really did not care about the consequences. At this critical moment, Tian Boguang used all his strength to slap the space ring on his finger, shattering a piece of jade inside. Suddenly, an old figure with a powerful aura flew out from the shattered jade and blocked in front of Tian Boguang. His thunderous roar made one's scalp go numb. Who dares to harm my grandson? I will destroy his entire family. This old figure was the Starry Moon Academy's principal, one of the top 5 super experts in the land of Western Liang, Tian Shulin, Tian Boguang's grandfather. Of course, he was just a doppelganger. However, even if it was just a doppelganger, it was not something that Qin Hao could resist. As soon as he appeared, Tian Shulin's honorable level Yuan Qi shattered Qin Hao's golden finger. Moreover, his aura spread out like the autumn wind, sweeping away fallen leaves, sweeping away everyone present. Bang! 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 Along with a heavy thud, everyone who was caught off guard fell to the ground and spat out blood. Including Qin Hao, they were all shocked half to death by Tian Shulin. Grandson Boguang, why are you so badly injured? Why didn't you shatter the jade earlier and let my doppelganger out to sweep away all obstacles for you? After Tian Shulin appeared, he looked at Qin Hao and the others as if they were ants and did not care at all. At first glance, he saw Tian Boguang lying on the ground with wounds all over his body. Judging from his injuries, it was enough to see that Tian Boguang was defeated even after using his full strength. While he was shocked, Tian Shulin also felt extremely heartbroken. He only had one grandson, and Tian Boguang was his life. Woo-woo. I'm sorry, grandfather. I lost again. Tian Boguang could not help but cry. His body twisted in agitation, and his face was filled with intense shame. He really wanted to defeat Qin Hao and prove his ability. Therefore, he was unwilling to let Tian Shulin's doppelganger out. However, in the end, my demon martial armor was pierced and the power of my two souls was suppressed. Even the honorable level golden alms bowl that my father gave me was destroyed by force. Tian Boguang desperately pointed at the broken piece of metal on the ground with his trembling finger. In the middle of the piece of metal, there was a shocking and rusty hole. And all of this is thanks to Qin Hao. Kill him, grandfather, help me kill him. As long as Qin Hao is alive, I will never be able to stand out. The hatred in Tian Boguang's eyes was extreme. As a super genius, he was extremely emotional. Since Boguang was born, why did the heavens have to create another Qin Hao? Qin Hao, when Tian Shulin heard, his old face was extremely tense. His expression was terrifying. He first channeled a wisp of vitality into Tian Boguang's body to temporarily suppress his injuries. Then, with a gloomy face, he walked step by step towards the fallen Qin Hao. You little piece of trash, I didn't expect you to be so strong. Even I'm not your opponent. And you even destroyed my son's honorable level weapon. This made the old man feel extremely shocked. But today, I will consign you to eternal damnation. Don't expect Head Yao Lao to bring the three-legged golden crow to save you again. Atone for your sins. Tian Shulin gritted his teeth and roared. The price of losing the honorable level weapon was too great. Because of this, his grandson almost died an unnatural death. Even if Qin Hao was killed 10,000 times and cut into small pieces, it would not be enough to vent his anger. Wait. Suddenly, a shout was heard. It was Yi Shuihan. Senior Tian, I am Yi Shuihan, the Prince of Luo Shui. I beg you to be magnanimous and let Qin Hao live. I will thank you and ask my father to compensate you with the honorable level weapon. When Tian Shulin heard this, his hand froze. He slowly turned his head and saw Yi Shuihan. It would have been better if he didn't see him. After seeing him, anger rushed to his mind. In an instant, Tian Shulin went berserk. The old man hasn't settled accounts with you. How dare you show up at this time? Well, the son will pay for his father's debts. I will punish Yi Longyuan for chasing the old man and beating the old man during the Rising Star competition. Chapter 760. During the Rising Star competition, Yao Lao rushed into the competition with his mount, the three-legged golden crow, to support Qin Hao. Tian Shulin couldn't do anything to Qin Hao at all. After the competition, he rolled up Tian Boguang and went back to Xingyue Academy in disgrace under the ridicule of tens of thousands of people. But who knew that before they reached home, they were stopped by Yi Longyuan in pajamas. Yi Longyuan released his Emperor Realm cultivation, and a burst of golden primordial qi swept Tian Shulin into the barrier and gave him a fierce beating. While beating him, he shouted that Yi Shuihan was his son. Tian Shulin, who was old and dim-sighted, dared to point fingers at the son of the Emperor of Dragon Lake. At that time, he asked, should I beat him? Tian Shulin was no match for the primitive Emperor. He was beaten black and blue, and a bunch of teeth flew out. He kept nodding, yes. In the end, Yi Longyuan pointed at Tian Shulin and said that Yi Shuihan and Qin Hao were sworn brothers, so he couldn't do anything to Qin Hao. Otherwise, it would be ignoring Yi Longyuan's Emperor Realm power. Next time, it would not be as simple as beating him up. Tian Shulin was naturally shocked by this news. He could only nod and promise that he would never cause trouble for Qin Hao. Only then did Yi Longyuan leave with a satisfied smile. But Tian Boguang, who was outside the barrier, didn't know what happened at all. He only knew that his grandfather was suddenly sucked away by a ball of golden brilliance when he flew up. Then, there was a painful howl from the golden brilliance. After howling for about 4 hours, the golden brilliance flew away, leaving Tian Shulin in a half-dead state in the air. Now that he saw Yi Shuihan's appearance, which was exactly the same as Yi Longyuan, there was no need to think too much. He must be the illegitimate son. Tian Shulin's son had a high position in the Great Yin Empire and was promoted to the Great Elder of the Zhanyue Mansion. Not to mention that Yi Longyuan was not present. At this moment, he didn't have a trace of fear. He grabbed Yi Shuihan's neck and raised his right hand into a fist, constantly bombarding Yi Shuihan's abdomen, making thunderous sounds. Yi Shuihan struggled with all his might. His feet were suspended in the air, kicking wildly. His two hands tore at Tian Shulin's face. Although Tian Shulin's face was scratched and bloody, he could not stop this furious old man. Gradually, Yi Shuihan's aura became weaker and weaker under his opponent's punches. Even if he didn't take so many punches, he was almost choked to death. Qin Hao's eyes. However, in the battle with Tian Buoguang, he had nearly exhausted all of his strength. Especially after shooting that heaven-shaking arrow, the setting Sunheart Sutra had drained all of Qin Hao's yuan qi. He couldn't use the nether-cleansing water for a short period of time. Yi Shuihan was about to be beaten to death. Stinky old dog, you shameless bastard. Not only did you give Tian Shulin so many treasures, but you also ordered your elders to infiltrate the team. You even condensed a Yuan Venerate clone and hid it in your spatial ring as a trump card. You are really shameless. Come at me if you have the guts. Qin Hao's body was at its limit after a series of fierce battles. At the moment, he was bombarded by Tian Shulin's clone, so he fell to the ground and spasmed. Tian Shulin finally heard Qin Hao's voice and immediately threw Yi Shuihan away. He knew very well that Yi Shuihan was Yi Longyuan's son, even if he had the support of the great Yan's Murong clan. No matter how angry he was, he wouldn't dare take his life easily. Qin Hao was different. Qin Hao didn't have any backing. Yao Lao, who was the deputy dean of the Scarlet Sun Academy, was nothing to worry about. He had to die this time. You little bastard, you still dare to humiliate the old man when you are about to die. You are really audacious. Fine, I will execute you in front of Shulin so that he won't have nightmares every day when he thinks about your existence. After all, he is about to marry the woman you love. This is wonderful, ha ha ha. Tian Shulin was like an old lunatic as he approached Qin Hao's position. Every step he took created a deep pit in the ground. At the same time, he raised his skinny right hand and a glaring Venerate purple glow gathered and was about to land on Qin Hao's head. In an instant, Xiaogua and the others were burning with anxiety. They cursed and swore in an attempt to infuriate Tian Shulin and lure him to their position. However, Tian Shulin turned a deaf ear to them. He only had one target in his eyes, Qin Hao. The palm fell down unwaveringly. However, all of a sudden, when it was a foot away from Qin Hao's head, Tian Shulin's movements suddenly stopped. He turned his neck and looked in one direction. At this moment, an old man who was even older than him was walking over from that direction. This old man wore a simple gray robe. His hair was white and hung loosely on his shoulders. His eyebrows were very long and fell in front of his chest. However, he was upright and gave off a feeling that he was both a deity and a saint. Just from his aura alone, Tian Shulin was already surprised. Intruder, this is not a place you should be. Put down the child and get out of here quickly. If not, you will regret it. This old man was naturally the beast Arch. When a demonic beast reached the Venerate level, it could transform into a human body and speak human language. At this moment, the beast Thearch's tone was calm, as if he was doing something very normal. At least in his opinion, Tian Shulin should obediently put down Qin Hao and get out of here as soon as possible. However, when Tian Shulin saw this, he raised his head and laughed. Ha ha ha, ridiculous. Where did you come from, old man? How dare you order the old man around so brazenly? What did you say? The beast Arch was stunned. Was this little human trying to turn the world upside down? In this Medicine Valley, my words are like an imperial edict. On account of Yi Longyuan, I will give you one last chance. Get out of here quickly. The beast Arch also casually waved his sleeve. Then a whirlwind swept up Qin Hao, who was on the ground, and brought him to his side. Then, the beast Arch used his finger to gently tap on Qin Hao's forehead. A vast power instantly healed all of Qin Hao's injuries, including the side effects of overusing the tranquil nether water. He was in high spirits. Thank you, Senior, for your help. Qin Hao hurriedly cupped his hands and bowed. He did not know why the old man saved him. However, Dinda's eyesight was extraordinary. He could tell that this old man's cultivation was frighteningly powerful. He was 100% sure that this old man's cultivation was above Tian Shulin's. "Old man," Tian Shulin roared. In a moment of carelessness, the old man had taken Qin Hao away right under his nose. Furthermore, the old man had even healed Qin Hao, his ancestor. "Are you trying to make an enemy out of me, Chieftain Tian?" Tian Shulin, who felt that he had been provoked, clenched his fists tightly. "Get out of here." The beast arch could no longer tolerate Tian Shulin's impudence. With a roar, a sound wave flew out of his mouth and blasted Tian Shulin's chest. Boom! Tian Shulin felt as though he had been hit by a heavy hammer. He involuntarily fell to the ground, his eyes filled with shock. One strike, forcing a venerate powerhouse to the ground with a roar. How shocking was the other party's cultivation! Tian Shulin was only a clone at the moment. However, even if it was just a clone, not just anyone could make him fall to the ground with a roar. After all, Tian Shulin's main body was a level 7 Yuan Venerate. His clone was roughly at the 3rd or 4th level. Chapter 761. Tian Buguang was shocked. He had never seen his grandfather speak so humbly to anyone. However, with the support of Murong clan from Great Yin, and half a month later, his father, Tian Daluo, would bring a large group of experts from Zhanyuan Mansion to Luo River. Therefore, at this moment, Tian Buguang was running wild. "Who are you, old bastard? How dare you interfere with my feud with Qin Hao and attack my grandfather? Grandfather, don't be a coward. Get up and teach this old bastard a lesson." Along with the incomparably arrogant words, Tian Shulin, who was at the side, did not dare to stand up. He was constantly signaling his grandson with his eyes, and he was even about to cry. "Senior, my bastard grandson has not seen the world. Please don't be calculative with him. However, I have something to say. In fact, not only am I the chief dean of Luoshui's Starry Moon Academy, my son, Tian Daluo, was a #1 genius of Luoshui 20 years ago. However, he went to the north borderline and was gradually forgotten. I forgot." Tian Shulin tried to scare the Beast Emperor away by mentioning his powerful son. "Oh, the #1 genius of Western Liang? Sorry, I don't know him." The Beast Arch remained calm and emotionless. Tian Shulin gritted his teeth. "However, Senior, my son's abilities are now more powerful than 20 years ago. As the great elder of the North Borderline Starry Moon Academy, he is a primitive emperor. Surely you don't want to make an emperor your enemy? Why don't you leave? If not, you won't be able to bear the wrath of the Starry Moon Academy. You will be hunted down by the Murong clan. I asked you to King get lost. Why are you saying all these useless things?" The Beast Emperor did not care about the Starry Moon Academy or the Murong clan. He moved his body impatiently and appeared in front of Tian Shulin, stepping on his old face. This stomp almost crushed Tian Shulin's head, which also made this insufferably arrogant Principal Tian feel even more humiliated. I'll leave now." Tian Shulin quickly begged for mercy. The Beast Emperor smiled. If not for the agreement with the humans and the fact that he could not use the power of the Emperor's spirit, he would have sent Tian Shulin to the afterlife. As the Beast Emperor moved his foot away, Tian Shulin scrambled to his feet. He pulled the dumbfounded Tian Buguang and wanted to run. "Wait." Qin Hao used his water wind steps and blocked Tian Shulin's path. "You can leave, but Tian Buguang has to stay." Qin Hao had sworn that he would keep Tian Buguang in the Medicine Valley forever. Once he said it, he would do it. "Brat, don't bully me just because you have someone backing you up. In fact, who do you think you are? What right do you have to order old man around?" Tian Shulin was so angry that he had to pay for the meal. It was impossible for him to let Tian Buguang stay. If he stayed, he would definitely die. The old man's cultivation was so powerful that it made one's hair stand on end. Even someone as powerful as the Dragon Abyss Emperor would probably be at this level. He was on par with the top expert of Western Liang and deserved the respect and admiration of the younger generation. Regarding this, the Beast Emperor didn't look at anyone and didn't say a word. His eyes were fixed on Qin Hao. Originally, he just wanted to get rid of Qin Hao's dog spirit. However, after this battle, he felt that Qin Hao wasn't as simple as he seemed. Suddenly, the entire place quietened down. It was so quiet that it was uncomfortable. Ha ha! Suddenly, loud laughter broke the silence. The laughter was very loud and came very suddenly. It gave Xiaogua and the rest a fright. They turned around and saw two giant beasts slowly walking over from afar. They were emitting a terrifying aura. On the left was a giant leopard that was 10 feet tall. It was emitting a cold energy. Everyone was familiar with the giant beast on the right. It was Brother Condor, who had flown away naturally. As Brother Condor and the Leopard King entered, everyone became nervous again. Don't be afraid. They won't hurt us. If I'm not wrong, you should be the king of the Medicine Valley, the leader of all beasts, the top emperor of Western Liang, the Beast Emperor, right? Qin Hao's eyes flickered as he looked at the old man calmly. Crack! It was as if a thunderbolt had struck Xiaogua and the rest's brains and crushed them. Everyone's jaws dropped. They couldn't believe it and fell silent. This old man was the Beast Emperor? It must be fake, right? Before entering the valley, everyone had heard from Yao Lao that the Beast Emperor might have fallen. Moreover, there was a rainbow-colored ball of light floating in midair. It was emitting a desolate energy. There was no doubt that he was an emperor-level powerhouse. Qin Hao called the old man the Beast Emperor of the Medicine Valley. Could it be that he was mistaken? When Xiaogua and the rest looked at Qin Hao suspiciously, the Beast Emperor nodded. He nodded and said, "That's right. My young friend, you have good eyesight. I am the land of 10,000 beasts, the king of the Medicine Valley, and the top emperor of Western Liang." Boom! Xiaogua and the rest felt their heads shake. They felt like they were going to faint. The Beast Emperor wasn't dead? But what was with the inheritance inside the rainbow-colored ball of light?